Chapter 651. Fire Demon Zhu Tian, come out. Yin Qitian's voice reverberated in the surroundings. Suddenly, the demonic clouds rumbled and a figure appeared. The figure was slender and had flames dancing all over his body. He was like a furnace that wanted to burn everything. The flaming figure held a spear and looked like a fire god descending. Fire Demon Zhu Tian. Lin Xian frowned slightly. He could sense that the fire demon opposite him was much stronger than the demonic generals from before. Not only was it powerful, but the fire demon before him was also very agile. It was not as stiff as the demonic generals. It was as though he had a soul. In fact, this fire demon did have a soul, but it was just a fragment of his spiritual sea. This was formed by the souls of the powerful martial artists that Yin Qitian had killed and the demon general. It was very powerful. It was not weaker than a prodigy at all. Roar! The fire demon roared and the flames on his body rumbled like a volcano that was awakening. Immediately, the blazing energy exploded, and the sea of fire spread out, burning fiercely. The entire space seemed to have turned into a world of flames. Even the air was filled with high temperature. The air evaporated and the ground cracked. Fire snakes slithered and crackled. The flaming spear stabbed out and the heat waves surged. The temperature could easily burn an ultimate warrior to ashes. Before the spear arrived, the flames came first. Lin Xian felt the heat waves and quickly activated the Red Lotus battlesuit to form a bright red energy shield that blocked the sea of fire. At the same time, he tapped his foot and stepped out again. Dragon-defying 7 steps, 4th step. The void was torn apart as the dragon claw struck out. Vast energy surged and was accompanied by the sound of thunder. Clang! This foot stepped on the spear, and there was a metallic sound. Countless flames danced and surrounded the light dragon claw. A low dragon roar sounded, and an even more violent energy formed under Lin Xian's feet and pushed the spear back. Tongue, tongue, tongue. The fire demon took 3 steps back and created 3 deep lava pits on the ground. He roared, and the spear in his hand turned into a fire dragon that charged over. The fire dragon appeared and burned everything. It roared and swallowed Lin Xian instantly. Peske, peske, peske. The terrifying flames quickly roasted Lin Xian, wanting to burn him to ashes. Lin Xian was in the middle of the flames. He raised his head to the sky and roared. It was as if he had been reborn from the flames. He turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed out. 5th step. With a resounding voice, Lin Xian took another step forward. Incomparably valiant energy gushed out from under his feet, like a flash flood, as heavy as a mountain. He quickly stomped down. Crack! The fiery dragon cried out, quickly breaking apart, turning into flames. Lin Xian rushed out, bringing with him an extremely terrifying power as he quickly slashed out with his sword. Moonbreaker! The blood-red sword chi whistled and condensed into a blood moon that swept out quickly. Everywhere it passed, the sky was torn apart, and a sea of blood spread out. Boom! Fire Demon blocked with his spear and was forced back by this force. Lin Xian let out a long howl and stepped forward again. With this step, he used the thunderstorm wings and instantly appeared above the Fire Demon. Then, he stepped on the Fire Demon's skull. Ka-ka-ka! The fire demon's skull let out the sound of bones shattering before exploding. The entire body shattered into countless fiery crystals that scattered on the ground. The power of this step was too strong. It was even stronger than the previous 5 steps combined. It directly killed the fire demon. Mountain demon! Yin Qitian roared, but he still did not make a move. Boom! The earth trembled and swayed nonstop. A huge figure appeared. He was moving on the ground like a small mountain. That figure was extremely tall, like an iron tower. His entire body was covered in demonic chi, forming a black battle armor. In his hand, there was a mountain-splitting axe that was like a door. A peerlessly powerful aura that was as heavy as a mountain surged out. The entire space seemed to be unable to withstand it. Heavy, too heavy. This figure was like a demonic mountain that pressed down on everyone's hearts. Even the martial artists who were watching from afar could feel this shocking pressure. Die! The mountain demon spat out a vague voice. It was like thunder, piercing through the sky and rolling over. Lin Xian also felt this pressure. His eyes blossomed as he quickly used the seventh step. Buzz. The void trembled as a dragon-shaped phantom appeared, following Lin Xian's footsteps. Boom. The mountain demon laughed sinisterly. He raised the gigantic axe in his hand and collided with the dragon-shaped phantom. In the next moment, a deafening sound was heard. It was as if thousands of lightning bolts had exploded, causing the surroundings to tremble. The earth cracked and the sky shook as if the world was about to be destroyed. What? Lin Xian's pupils constricted as he was shocked. His seventh step did not break through the opponent's defense. This surprised him. One had to know that the seventh step was extremely powerful, far surpassing the previous 6 steps. Even so, it did not have any effect. It seemed that this mountain demon was even stronger than the fire demon from before. Hee. The mountain demon let out a sinister laugh. His arm shook, forming a powerful force that pushed Lin Xian back. Then, his entire body exploded as he slashed down with his axe. Boom! The air split open as a violent wind blew. The entire ground split into 2. This axe was extremely powerful, as if it was going to split the entire space. Lin Xian's scalp went numb as he felt the threat of death. This attack was no weaker than He Muya's. What he needed was this kind of pressure. With a long roar, Lin Xian raised the slaughter sword in his hand and crazily circulated the great dragon sword soul. He wanted to take this attack head-on. What? Is that kid crazy? The martial artists in the distance exclaimed when they saw this scene. Even the purple-robed middle-aged man shook his head. At this moment, the best way was to dodge with extreme speed. Above the demonic clouds, Yin Qitian was also slightly surprised. He thought that Lin Xian would use the thunderstorm wings to escape. He was even prepared to cut off Lin Xian's speed. However, the other party's choice was beyond his expectations. Idiot. You actually dare to fight the mountain demon? Yin Qitian sneered as a trace of mockery appeared in his eyes. Lin Xian was not crazy, nor was he an idiot. He naturally had his reasons for choosing to take the attack head-on. Firstly, when he said to fight, he wanted to experience the feeling of being on the edge of life and death. He wanted to break through in the extreme battle. Moreover, he was confident that he could withstand this attack. Flying rainbow. The sword Qi was like a rainbow as it slashed upwards. This sword contained the power of the fledgling form of the sword soul. It brought along a large curtain of light as it poured out. A heavy pressure came as the sky-splitting axe mercilessly fell. The violent energy caused Lin Xian's bones to creak. Clang. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound rang out, causing the nearby lake to explode and setting off thousands of waves. The surrounding mountain peaks shattered and countless rocks flew everywhere. This attack was too terrifying. Lin Xian felt an extremely strong power quickly enter his arm through the long sword. In the next moment, his arm trembled and even the red lotus battle armor became dim. Crack. His bones let out a soft sound as they almost broke. Slash. Lin Xian roared as his black hair fluttered. The great dragon sword soul in his body let out a dragon roar as it bloomed with light. A surge of energy gushed out and instantly repaired Lin Xian's arm. At the same time, it brought him endless power. Boom. The sword Qi shone, releasing an even more dazzling light. It was like a rainbow surging as it knocked the sky-splitting axe away. Chapter 652. Lin Xian slashed out with his sword and sent his opponent's heaven-splitting axe flying. That's impossible. Yin Qitian was shocked. The mountain demon was extremely powerful, and even those geniuses didn't dare to face him head-on. However, the neighbor actually chose such a stupid method of fighting force with force, and even won. This shocked him. It seemed like he had underestimated his opponent. The mountain demon had a soul fragment. After being sent flying by the sword, he became furious. With a roar, demonic qi surged from his body. Holding the heaven-splitting axe with both hands, the mountain demon roared and slashed down again. This attack was even more violent than before. Bang! The sword light flashed like a rainbow. The mountain demon was sent flying again, creating a deep abyss in the ground. Roar! The mountain demon roared. His voice was like thunder, shattering the demonic clouds in the sky. Demonic chi surged from his entire body, forming strange patterns that were somewhat similar to Yin Qitian's. The demonic armor on his body shone continuously, and a shocking power surged out. In the end, the mountain demon gave up on the heaven-splitting axe and rushed towards Lin Xian. Bang! 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 The ground trembled and cracked open. Every step would create a 1,000-meter crack. The mountain demon was like a demonic mountain that moved quickly. Light flashed, and the void rumbled. It couldn't withstand it at all. Let's end this. Looking at the mountain demon, Lin Xian raised the slaughter sword. Slaughter red lotus. On the sword, a red lotus bloomed and danced in the air. The slaughter sword fell, and the demonic red lotus floated out and flew towards the mountain demon. The red lotus looked gentle, but it contained the power of the dragon's sword soul and also the aura of slaughter. It could be said that it was a flower of death. Poof! Wah! The red lotus sword chi enlarged in the air and landed on the mountain demon, covering him. In the next moment, countless red sword chi shot out and pierced the mountain demon's body. The mountain demon roared crazily. His entire body was hideous. The aura of slaughter made him crazy, but what made him even more terrified was the aura of the sword soul. The moment it entered his body, it destroyed his vitality. Screams rang out like the screams of ghosts, causing the surrounding martial artists to tremble. Not long after, the mountain demon collapsed with a loud crash. His body was covered with dense sword scars, which was a ghastly sight. Yin Qitian stood on top of the devil cloud. His handsome face turned somewhat malevolent. His two great devil generals had actually been defeated, which made him abnormally furious. One had to know that fire demons and mountain demons were not ordinary demon generals. They all had soul fragments. Brat, you deserve to die. I'll kill you and refine you into my number one devil general. Yin Qitian's entire body was filled with killing intent. Cut the crap. Get down here and fight. Lin Xian pointed his sword at the demonic cloud. Blood-colored sword chi surged out from the tip of his sword and quickly formed a sphere in the air. Starburst. This was also one of the 9 swords of Green Cloud. The Azure Cloud 9 swords were imparted to him by Lord Alcohol. In the past, Lin Xian could only use the first 5 swords, but now, he had completely grasped them. The sword turned into a star, and the blood-colored star shot towards the sky, bringing with it a long red tail of light. It was exceptionally spectacular. Boom! Explode! Just as he entered the demonic cloud, he exploded. The dazzling energy exploded, annihilating a part of the sky. An extremely unstable spatial crack appeared in the void. Anyone below the honorable realm who touched it would die instantly. The demonic cloud in the sky was blasted a few thousand meters wide, and the entire sky regained its clarity. Whoosh! Behind him, an ear-piercing sound rang out. A violent wind blew, and a powerful aura instantly appeared. Yin Qitian executed his heavenly demon wings and dodged the starburst sword chi. Boom! With a wave of his palm, demonic chi surged. Like a demonic star chasing the moon, it rapidly blasted towards Lin Xian's back. Swish! Lin Xian also executed his thunderstorm wings, leaving behind afterimages in the air as he swiftly dodged. Rumble! This palm caused the void to distort. Yin Qitian didn't stop after his palm missed. Instead, he continued to attack. Palm shadows were as black as ink, and the demonic chi was shocking. All of them enveloped Lin Xian. At this moment, Yin Qitian's expression was ice-cold. Each of his attacks could kill an older generation martial artist. Swish! Lin Xian turned around and slashed with his sword. The sword was like lightning, heavy as a divine mountain. Clang! Yin Qitian's palms clashed, and a metallic sound rang out. Terrifying demonic chi surged, and sword chi resonated, filling the surroundings. It was like a battle between gods and demons. Demonic palm. Yin Qitian's right palm blocked the long sword, and his left palm blasted out again. This attack carried the might of the heavenly demon field, as if a demon king had come into being. Boom! The void split open in an instant. This palm was extremely fast. Lin Xian roared, and similarly punched out. Golden arcs of lightning danced and intertwined, covering the fist. The golden fist flashed, tearing the sky apart. It was like a golden phoenix flying, shining in all directions. The fist and palm collided, and a shocking explosion occurred. It was like 10,000 beasts roaring, causing everyone to fall into a state of deafness. That sound wave was too terrifying. It materialized into an attack and directly shattered the ground, forming thousands of cracks. Lin Xian took half a step back. His arm was numb. Yin Qiqian's demonic palm was too terrifying, and his body was somewhat suppressing him. Ha! With a roar, the slaughter sword exploded and cut open Yin Qiqian's palm. Blood splattered, and the terrifying sword's spirit embryonic form crazily rushed into Yin Qiqian's body, destroying everything. Humph! Suppress for me. Yin Qiqian was furious. The surrounding demonic aura surged, forming a 9-story demonic pagoda above his head, suppressing the power of the dragon sword spirit. Lin Xian seized the opportunity, and his long sword surged. In the sky, a blood-red sword appeared, and an ancient majestic aura filled the air. Earth-grade martial art. The purple-clothed middle-aged man's pupil shrank, and his face was filled with shock. He did not expect that Lin Xian also had an earth-grade martial art. Gale Lightning Sword. One sword mountain rivers break. Lin Xian held the slaughter sword and quickly slashed down. In the sky, a huge blood-red sword shadow fell and slammed into the 9-story demonic pagoda, opening it up. Rumble. Countless demonic clouds swept across the sky, and the ground sank. Blood rained down. This sword was too terrifying. Yin Qiqian was equally shocked. He was sent flying by this sword shadow. Fortunately, he was protected by the heavenly demon field, or else he would have been killed. Earth-grade martial art? You really have an earth-grade martial art? Yin Qiqian roared. He was careless, and he was injured. Thinking of this, he sneered. Kid, you are not the only one who has an earth-grade martial art. Heavenly demon field, nether spear. In the sky, demonic aura surged, crazily gathering in Yin Qiqian's hand. In the next moment, a pitch-black spear appeared. The entire field was about 80 feet long, and the demonic runes on it shone brightly. Demonic flames surged, and the moment it appeared, it caused cracks to appear in the surrounding space. Kid, die. Yin Qiqian grinned and threw it out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The nether spear flew out, piercing through the void. Lin Xian only saw a shadow flying in the air, and it was extremely fast. Before the attack arrived, Lin Xian felt a sharp aura rushing towards him. It hit the Red Lotus battle armor, and it gave off a clanking sound. Lin Xian felt a strong threat of death. This spear would definitely take his life. Chapter 653. The Nether Spear was a terrifying killing technique. It carried a monstrous demonic flame as it pierced towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian felt the threat of death. He once again used Gale Lightning Sword to resist the opponent's Earth-tier martial art. In the sky, the huge blood-colored sword shadow condensed once again. The blood-colored patterns spread out and converged with a mysterious power. A terrifying aura spread out and enveloped the entire space. Lin Xian roared and reached out his palm to grab the sky. The golden palm enlarged and covered the sky as it grabbed the blood-colored sword. It was a terrifying scene. Lin Xian grabbed the Gale Lightning Sword and quickly slashed down. The Gale Lightning Sword whizzed down. Every sword chi was as thick as a mountain. A casual swing could pierce through the void. The blood-red Gale Lightning Sword danced in the air like a huge blood-colored heavenly sword. It was extremely powerful. Everywhere it passed, the void would shatter, and large areas would collapse. The sword carried an aura that could shatter mountains and rivers as it collided with the nether spear. The two collided and violent energy swept out in all directions. It was like a scene of destruction. The place where the bamboo forest was covered by blood-colored sword chi and rolling demonic clouds. It was chaotic. Not only that, the aftermath of the energy even affected the entire merry forest. The terrifying energy swept out in all directions. Its power was not inferior to a supremacy's attack. Fortunately, There were some peerless experts in the dark who helped to disperse the energy and protect the merry forest. However, the bamboo forest was completely destroyed. The ground level dropped by more than 10 times. In front, two figures retreated. They were in a sorry state. Lin Xian's face was pale. Using an earth-tier martial art consumed a lot of energy. Unless he became a supremacy, he could use it without limit. Just as he came to a stop, a demonic pattern flashed and shot towards him with a flash of light, as fast as lightning. In a panic, Lin Xian tried his best to twist his body. At the same time, he activated the Red Lotus armor to the extreme. However, the demonic pattern still pierced through his left shoulder. Lin Xian was sent flying by the powerful impact, bringing with him a large cloud of blood. This change was very shocking, but it happened in an instant. Originally, they were evenly matched, but now Lin Xian was injured. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yin Qitian walked out from the berserk energy, gasping for breath. His face was abnormally pale, without a trace of blood. At the center of his forehead, a vertical devil tattoo that resembled an eye was gradually disappearing. There were still terrifying energy waves left on it. Obviously, the attack just now was launched by the mageweth that resembled an eye. Looking ahead, Yin Qitian frowned. That attack from before had consumed a great deal of his energy. Originally, that was an attack that he could only use after reaching the Exalted Realm. At this moment, he had used it with the intention of killing his opponent with a single strike. However, Lin Xian's reaction was too fast. Originally, he had aimed for the heart, but now, he had only injured the left shoulder. This was very different from what he had expected. Moreover, he didn't have the ability to use it again, unless he burned his spiritual energy. If that was the case, his vitality would be greatly damaged. Therefore, that was a method that would cause both sides to suffer. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he wouldn't use it. Now that he had crippled one of his opponent's arms, his chances of winning were very high. Kid, you have indeed exceeded my expectations, but it's all over now. Yin Qitian absorbed the surrounding devil qi, quickly recovering his body. Then, he walked towards Lin Xian step by step. Lin Xian fell to the ground, his body trembling slightly. That attack just now had almost taken his life. He had thought that he would dodge in advance to avoid being hit in his vitals. But even so, his left arm was still injured, and he couldn't lift it at all. It seemed that he could only use that move. Lin Xian looked at the approaching Yin Qitian, and his right hand once again gripped the slaughter sword. The battle is not over yet. Lin Xian suddenly exploded, and a sword light tore through the sky. Outer sky meteor. The dazzling sword light flashed like a meteor, dazzling but short. Not good. Yin Qitian's entire body tensed up. He felt an extremely powerful threat, which was a warning from his soul. Devil Qi rolled, emitting a pitch-black light, forming an ice-cold armor that covered his body. At the same time, the demonic mark on his forehead flashed again. But he was still one step too late. Just as the demonic mark was formed, the dazzling sword light had already pierced him. One sword, throat, blood splattered, and Lin Xian's figure appeared behind Yin Qitian. Behind him, a black crack appeared in the void, which was quickly healing. Yin Qitian's body kept trembling, and the devil qi on his body began to disappear. Drip, drip, blood dripped, splashing on the ground. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that the powerful young devil king Yin Qitian would be killed with one sword. Even the middle-aged man was stunned. This result was different from what he had expected. He had analyzed the situation before and found that Yin Qitian had a 70% chance of winning. But now, he found that he was wrong. The young swordsman in front of him couldn't be analyzed with common sense. In the depths of Merry Forest, in front of a splendid palace, a few figures stood. Their eyes flickered, looking at the battlefield where Lin Xian was. Exciting, very exciting. They didn't expect to see such a stunning swordsman in the sand region. On the left, a middle-aged man laughed. This man was dressed like a scholar, and he was holding a yellowed book in his hand. If one sensed carefully, they would find that this middle-aged scholar had a faint aura of a supremacy. This was definitely a terrifying figure. However, Such an expert didn't use jade slips or scrolls, and he was holding an old book. It was really strange. Humph. I guess he's not a Sand Region martial artist. He must have followed the young miss here. These two people, they actually attacked in advance. They really can't wait. But that Yin Chitian is too weak. He was actually killed. On the right was a young girl wearing an exquisite yellow dress. She had two small braids, a pair of big black eyes, and a delicate appearance. She was very cute. At this moment, she was pouting, rolling her eyes and snorting. Linger, you're wrong. Yin Chitian didn't die. A cold voice came. Then, a white figure appeared. Young miss. The young girl called Ling turned her head, blinking her big eyes with a puzzled look. The middle-aged scholar on the left looked back with a smile. Behind him, a beautiful figure slowly walked over. That figure was in her 20s, and she was full of noble aura. Although she was wearing a long dress, it couldn't hide her impressive figure. That beautiful face was covered with a thin veil, which added a bit of mystery. This woman was like a fairy, with a colorful radiance on her body, making people look up to her. Young miss, his throat was slit by a sword. How could he not die? Ling held the arm of the beautiful figure and asked puzzledly, "Watch and you'll understand." The figure said slowly. Chapter 654. In front of him, the demonic aura on Yin Chitian's body disappeared, revealing his true appearance. However, that was not Yin Chitian himself, but the corpse of a demon general. At the critical moment, Yin Chitian had used his life-saving method, using a demon general to replace his death, saving his life. Lin Xian also sighed. His opponent was indeed powerful. He actually did not discover him. Whoosh! In the distance, Yin Chitian's figure appeared. His entire body was abnormally weak. Brat, today's battle ends here. Next time, I will personally kill you. After speaking, he did not wait for Lin Xian's response and quickly rushed into the sky, disappearing into the sky. Everyone was shocked. Yin Chitian, who was known as the Demon King, had actually escaped. This was too shocking. That was the Sand Region's genius, and he was defeated just like that. It's Lin Xian, someone exclaimed. Many of them were Quicksand City's martial artists. Now that the demonic aura had disappeared, they naturally recognized Lin Xian. It's actually him. A few days ago, he was only competing with the geniuses, but now he can actually defeat them. This speed of improvement is too fast. Countless people were envious, their faces filled with madness. Lin Xian did not pay attention to these people. Instead, he directly sat on the ground and began to recover. This time, his injuries were even more serious. His left arm was almost crippled. Fortunately, he had a 1,000-year elixir, otherwise he would not be able to recover in a short period of time. After arranging a simple array, Lin Xian closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. In the distance, the girl called Ling looked at Lin Xian's voice and lightly snorted. This guy is really daring. He actually dares to recover here. Is he not afraid that someone will attack him? This is where he is smart. The white-robed figure behind her said, "Those who are weak cannot even get close to him, and those who are strong cannot attack in this kind of public place. After all, geniuses like him will have a force behind them. This guy is so cunning." Ling lightly snorted. That guy is actually eating a 1,000-year elixir. The middle-aged scholar beside her was greatly surprised. It seems that he is not a Sand Region disciple, otherwise he would not have a 1,000-year elixir. They all knew that 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs were extremely precious in the Sand Region. Lin Xian's movements were very fast. Other than the middle-aged scholar and a few others, no one else saw him. Linger, when his injuries are healed, invite him over for a chat. The white-robed figure turned and left, walking into the palace. This guy, what great fortune. He actually managed to gain the young miss favor. Ling was also greatly astonished. She had followed her young miss for many years, and naturally knew her young miss's temper. There were so many young geniuses in the Sky Martial Continent, but only a few were able to gain her favor. Unknowingly, Ling's interest in Lin Xian grew. With the Millennium Elixir, Lin Xian's recovery speed was even faster. In addition to his longevity secret art, His injuries were almost healed in half a day. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible for them to recover without at least half a year. After recovering from his injuries, Lin Xian did not leave. Instead, he began to cultivate the great dragon sword spirit. He had gained a lot from this battle, and now was the time to digest it. In the distance, Ling was very surprised to see Lin Xian recover in half a day. She wanted to go over, but she found that he had actually closed his eyes and sat cross-legged again. This made her very angry. Humph! Ling pouted, looking angry. Damn guy. He actually made me wait for so long. Lin Xian did not know that someone was waiting for him. He was currently in the middle of comprehending. In the blink of an eye, a day passed. During this time, the people of Merry Forest did not disturb Lin Xian. Even the surrounding martial artists were dispersed by them. Ling came out of the palace, and after seeing Lin Xian still meditating, she whispered a few words and ignored him. After another half a day, Lin Xian opened his eyes. Soon after, he revealed a satisfied smile. In this battle, his great dragon sword spirit fusion had reached 80%. His combat strength had increased again, and compared to before, it was a great improvement. Now that he was fighting with Yin Qitian, he would not be in such a sorry state. He was even confident that he could defeat him without getting injured. There are still 20% left. Shaoli, I hope you won't disappoint me. Lin Xian stood up, his eyes shining. His last target was Shaoli, who was also one of the Sand Region's geniuses. He had a deep impression of Shaoli because he was a swordsman who had comprehended the embryonic form of a sword spirit. This kind of person's attack power was very fierce. Previously, when he was testing the waters in Quicksand City, he had felt that dormant sword spirit, which made his heart tremble. Therefore, he put Shaoli as the last target. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian prepared to leave. At this time, there was a sudden sound in front of him, and a black light shot towards him. Buzz! Lin Xian stretched out 2 fingers and caught it. Then, he was slightly stunned because he realized that the black light was actually a spirit fruit, and its grade was not low. Hey, my young mistress invites you. In front of him, a sweet-looking girl appeared and said with her chin raised. Lin Xian frowned. Someone who could squander a spirit fruit like this was definitely not an ordinary person. At least, she was not from the Sand Region. However, he was a little disgusted by her attitude. Xiaobai often throws things. I often teach it that it's not good, Lin Xian said lightly. Xiaobai? Who's Xiaobai? The girl was naturally Ling. She asked curiously. Xiaobai is a monkey that I raised. It likes to eat spirit fruits, but it often throws them, which gives me a headache, Lin Xian said with a smile. You bastard! Ling was stunned. Then she stomped her feet in anger. This guy is too despicable. He actually compared me to a monkey. How infuriating. She wanted to stomp on him a few times, and she did so. Her body turned into an afterimage. Ling rushed toward Lin Xian. Her speed was as fast as lightning, which was very shocking. Lin Xian was surprised. He did not expect this sweet-looking girl with a bad temper to be so fast. It was even a little beyond his expectations. However, it was still within his tolerance range. Lin Xian blocked the other party's kick with his arm in front of his chest. Then, he stepped to the side and dodged another kick. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless footprints filled the air. It was a dazzling sight, but Lin Xian was like a flowing cloud, easily dodging them. Ling was angry and attacked again. Because she was wearing a dress, she was using leg techniques. A pair of white calves swayed in front of Lin Xian's eyes. It was very attractive. Slap. Lin Xian clenched his fist and pinched the pair of small feet. You're exposed. After Lin Xian grabbed them, he realized that something was wrong. Damn it. Ling screamed. A powerful wave of spirit energy burst out from her body, forming a wave of air that pushed Lin Xian away. Lin Xian tactfully let go of his hand and retreated to a safe distance with a smile. You're still laughing. Ling stomped her feet. She was going crazy with anger. How dare this damned thief take advantage of her? I'm so angry. I'm going to gouge your eyeballs out. Ling was so angry that her face turned pale. Her small hands formed claws and grabbed at Lin Xian. Chapter 655. Linger flew into a rage out of humiliation and grabbed at Lin Xian. This move went straight for Lin Xian's eyes. In an instant, that white palm turned bright red, like the sunset glow that wrapped around Linger's fingertips. A blazing aura surged out, piercing through the void. This temperature was not inferior to that of the fire demon from before. Lin Xian was astonished and stopped underestimating her. He did not expect a young girl to be so powerful. Wong. A low sound was heard, and a bright red lotus appeared, blooming in front of Lin Xian, forming a natural barrier. Dang dang dang. Her fingertips collided with the red lotus light screen, creating countless sparks as if metal and stone had collided. Linger's fingers were in pain, and her beautiful face wrinkled. She wanted to attack again, but Lin Xian dodged. Whoosh! His figure flickered, and the demonic red lotus circled above Linger's head, while Lin Xian dodged Tin Zhang away. Don't move, or you'll have to bear the consequences, Lin Xian said. You. Linger was so angry that her chest heaved up and down, looking very alluring. She snorted. You're finished? My young miss originally had a good impression of you, but now I think there's nothing left. Your young miss? Lin Xian was astonished. Such a powerful young girl. Was she just a servant? That was too extravagant. Who is your young miss? Why should I see her? You don't know? This time, it was Linger's turn to be astonished. She snorted. You men traveled thousands of miles to the sand region and even fought until your heads bled. Wasn't it all to gain the favor of my young miss? Lin Xian was stunned, and then a name appeared in his mind. Could it be her? How is it? Are you regretting it now? Linger snorted. If you know what's good for you, let me go quickly and give me 8 or 10,000 years old spirit herbs, and I won't pursue this matter. Otherwise, you can just wait to cry. Linger had a smug look on her face. No one could refuse her young miss. However, she was disappointed this time. Little girl, you're too greedy. Lin Xian laughed. You can slowly reflect on yourself here. I'll leave first. You. How dare you? Linger was anxious. Don't you want to see my miss? I'm very busy. Maybe next time. Lin Xian waved his hand and disappeared. Damn it. How could this be? Linger stomped her feet in anger. This guy, he's definitely not a man. Her nerves were in a mess. How could a man reject her family's young miss? Unless the other party wasn't a man. Whoosh! A white figure appeared nearby. Radiance scattered down from her body, making her look like a fairy. Miss Linger felt extremely wronged. That guy is too despicable. All right, I heard everything, the white-clothed beauty said indifferently. This person is very interesting. Humph, I'm guessing that he's definitely not a man. Either that, or he did it on purpose to attract Mrs. attention. This guy is too despicable and cunning, Linger said angrily. All right, let's go back, the white-clothed beauty said with a smile. She had seen many methods of loosening the reins only to grasp them better. However, she had never seen someone as decisive as Lin Xian. With a wave of her hand, a blue ice crystal appeared. Immediately, the surrounding temperature dropped. The air condensed, and the surrounding Tinjiang radius turned into a world of ice and snow. Countless ice crystals scattered down and quickly rushed towards the demonic red lotus in the air. Ka. In an instant, the red lotus was sealed in ice. Immediately, the demonic red lotus' mysterious power disappeared. Linger was pleased with her release. Humph, that despicable guy. The next time I see him, I'll definitely teach him a lesson, Linger said angrily. Soon after, he followed the white-clothed beauty and quickly left. Lin Xian naturally did not know about these things. He was now invited to an exquisite hall. The one who led him here was the purple-clothed middle-aged man who led him here earlier. Hearing that the master of Merry Woods wanted to see him, Lin Xian was very surprised. He knew that the battle with Yin Qitian must have alerted the master of this place. However, after the battle, the people of Merry Woods did not find trouble with him. Instead, they helped him clear the area. All of these actions were filled with kindness. However, Lin Xian was a bit of an exception. Young hero Lin, my master has arrived. the purple-clothed middle-aged man said. Hearing this, Lin Xian turned around and saw a young man slowly walking over. His speed was not fast, but in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of him. So fast, Lin Xian was surprised. This footwork had the feeling of shrinking the ground into an inch. Thinking about it, the other party's strength must be very strong. He estimated that he was definitely not weaker than the Sand Region's geniuses. The young man was dressed in a white jade robe. He was slender and handsome. The corner of his mouth had a playful smile. He held a folding fan in his hand and looked elegant. Lin Xian was surprised. He did not expect the master of Merry Woods to be such an elegant young master. He originally thought that he was an old monster. Young hero Lin, this is young Master Wu Quebec. He is also the master of Merry Woods. Young Master Wu K, what a good name. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. Thinking about it, the master of Merry Woods should not lack anything. Earlier, I did not agree to the battle here. Please forgive me, young master. What are you talking about? Young hero Lin is a young genius. Being able to defeat the Sand Region's geniuses at such a young age, your future achievements will be limitless. I like to make friends with people like young hero Lin. And Wu Kei laughed, and then pulled Lin Xian to a seat. Lin Xian understood that young Master Wu Kei was here to make friends. Thinking about it, young Master Wu Kei must be interested in his growth potential. Thinking about Lin Xian, once he entered the honorable realm, he would definitely be an extremely powerful existence. Who knows, he might even have the chance to enter the king realm in the future. This kind of genius was someone that all forces wanted to rope in. Of course, and Wu Kei had to be one step ahead. Moreover, he had other plans. After chatting for a while, Lin Xian admired and Wu Kei even more. Whether it was in terms of martial arts or experience, and Wu Kei far surpassed his peers. He could be said to be a rare genius. Lin Xian exchanged some martial arts experiences with an Wu Kei and was enlightened. In the end, he did not tarry and cupped his fists to bid farewell. Young master, why didn't you just tell him about us? The middle-aged man in purple was puzzled. I think he won't refuse after knowing the truth. No. And Wu Kei shook his head. This kind of person is like a true dragon. He won't lower his head. We just need to have a good relationship with him. Who knows, he might surprise us at a crucial moment. And Wu Kei waved his fan and said with a carefree expression, don't investigate him and don't follow him. Remember, we can't make him dislike us. Yes, the middle-aged man in purple said respectfully. Lin Xian left Merry Woods and headed towards Quicksand City. According to what he knew, Shaoli was in Quicksand City. It was a dark and windy night. Quicksand City was still brightly lit, and it was bustling with noise. Especially the arenas. Their cheers shook the heavens and dazzling lights shot towards the surroundings. Lin Xian was like a ray of light as he flashed through the sky and flew towards the outskirts of the city. It was very desolate there. There were no lights or cultivators there. Only the faint moonlight sprinkled down, and it was extremely quiet. If one looked carefully, one would notice that this was a dilapidated, ancient residence. Cobwebs covered the entire place while a thick layer of dust covered the ground. Everything in the surroundings showed that no one had been here for a very long time. However, a single person was sitting within this quiet residence. Chapter 656. However, in the silent mansion, there was a person sitting there. This person sat under the moonlight, looking somewhat lonely. However, if one looked carefully, they would discover a different kind of aura. Moreover, there were beams of cold light emitting from below. The light was very sharp, like cold ice, piercing one's soul. This person was naturally Shaoli. At this moment, he was slowly wiping the long blade in his hand. The long blade was completely black, looking simple and unadorned. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary sword, nothing special. However, Shaoli's expression was very careful, as if he was facing the most precious treasure in the world. His movements were very gentle, wiping every part of the long blade clean. To him, this jet-black saber was his life. Lin Xian flew all the way and finally arrived at the top of the ancient castle. He saw Shaoli below, but did not make a sound, only quietly watching. This was a form of respect for Shaoli. As a sword artist, he also knew the importance of a weapon to a martial artist. Especially for sword artists and blade artists, they viewed weapons as their life. Moreover, he often wiped the Wind Shadow Sword and Star Scar Sword. Every time he did this, his heart would be very calm. Therefore, he knew that Shaoli could not be disturbed at this time. Lin Xian slowly descended, like a cloud, lightly landing in the mansion. Shaoli did not turn his head, still slowly wiping the long blade. With his strength, he should have already discovered Lin Xian's existence, but he acted as if he did not know. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. During this time, Shaoli had been silently wiping his long blade, while Lin Xian was like a statue, quietly standing there. He did not speak, and did not even move. When Shaoli finished wiping, he tightly gripped the long blade in his hand. Soon after, his entire temperament changed. He no longer had the loneliness from before, but was replaced by a cold sharpness. His whole body was like a blade, wild and sharp to the extreme. Come, I will go all out in this battle. Shaoli knew that he was not familiar with Lin Xian. The fact that he could wait for 2 hours meant that he wanted to fight with him. All right, Lin Xian said in a deep voice as he pulled out the Wind Shadow Sword from his waist. An even fiercer and fiercer aura gushed out and filled the surroundings of the old house. Their gazes met, and it was like the light of a blade and the shadow of a sword, causing the entire void to emit cracking sounds. Let's decide this in one move, Shaoli said. His voice was as cold as a blade. Lin Xian was shocked, but he nodded slowly. No matter what method the other party used, he would not lose. Determining victory and defeat in one move seemed like a fantasy to other martial artists. However, for swordsmen and sabersmen, one move was enough. The two of them faced each other, and their auras continued to rise. They were like divine swords and heavenly blades, standing tall in the old mansion. Around the two of them, there were countless tiny saber lights and sword shadows, forming a special area. That power was so terrifying that even a half-step supremacy would be killed immediately if they entered. Although the two of them did not make a move, the aura they exuded was enough to make people tremble. However, the aura did not stop there. It was still rising rapidly. Lin Xian was very cautious. He had to use his full strength for this move. Countless sword chi condensed behind him, and the shadow of a true dragon roared. The sound was deep and desolate, and it was filled with power, causing the air above to explode. In front of him, the shadow of a long sword appeared. Although the dragon head and sword body were a little dim, they were filled with a shocking power. On the opposite side, Shaoli's pupils shrank. He naturally felt the pressure from the dragon head sword. With a low shout, he also released the fledgling form of his martial soul. His martial soul was naturally a long saber martial soul. The fledgling form of the saber soul and the jet-black long saber in his hand combined, causing Shaoli's aura to grow stronger again. The jet-black long saber that looked simple and unadorned was now like a black jade, emitting a sparkling light. A shocking aura was emitted from it. The two young men were emitting a terrifying power that was comparable to that of a supremacy. If anyone was here, their jaws would drop, because the aura of the two of them was so strong that they could even fight against a supremacy. Lin Xian was also shocked. He guessed right. Shaoli's strength was definitely strong. He was probably one of the top geniuses. Take his aura, for example. It was even stronger than Yan Qitian's. Shaoli was probably only one step away from a true martial soul. This was a very strong opponent. Lin Xian believed that the winner of this battle would definitely be able to condense a true martial soul quickly. Therefore, he had to win this time. The two of them faced each other, looking for each other's flaws and preparing to kill with one strike. They put all their energy on each other and did not have the extra energy to check the situation around them. At this moment, above the old house, another figure flashed quickly. This figure was shrouded in a black fog. Like a ghost, he did not emit a trace of aura. His gaze was cold as he stared at Lin Xian's figure, like an experienced hunter staring at his prey. He was also waiting for the best time to attack. Below, Lin Xian's figure was tall and straight. His entire body was filled with the aura of a sword soul. At this moment, he had raised his essence, chi, and spirit to the highest level. This was the best time for him to attack. If he missed it, he would have to wait for a long time. As a swordsman, he would definitely not hesitate when he attacked. Therefore, Lin Xian held the dragon-shaped sword and quickly stabbed out. However, the moment he moved, the black-clothed man in the darkness laughed silently. A black spear appeared in his hand, and he quickly threw it out. This spear was completely black. It was different from the black of Xiao Li's long saber. This black was a kind of death. It was a cold and gloomy color, as if there was endless resentment mixed in it. Like a flash of lightning, this spear was extremely fast. The void shattered and countless cracks appeared. The spear instantly arrived behind Lin Xian. Originally, Lin Xian was highly focused and focused all his energy on Xiao Li. However, he did not expect that a fatal danger would suddenly come from behind him. This made his heart thump and his entire body tense up. At this crucial moment, he gave up on Xiao Li and used all his strength to resist the fatal attack behind him. In an instant, a layer of bright red armor appeared on his body, forming the strongest defense. At the same time, the dragon-shaped sword danced behind him. The sword light was like a divine sword, shining in all directions. It was like 3,000 bolts of lightning rushing behind him. However, he still underestimated the fatal danger. The pitch-black spear emitted a gloomy, ghostly aura. It was like a river of the underworld, rushing over quickly. On it, there were countless ferocious ghost howls, turning the surroundings into the yellow springs of hell. Clang! Lin Xian's long sword hit the spearhead, causing it to deviate, but the spear still stabbed him. In the next moment, the spear pierced through his body. Chapter 657. The spear was terrifying and carried an astonishing aura of death. Like a roaring river, it instantly pierced through Lin Xian. The spear was so powerful that even though Lin Xian was protected by the red lotus armor, his defense was still broken. Moreover, the powerful force pushed Lin Xian's body back and nailed him to a huge rock. Buzz! The rockery that was dozens of feet tall could not withstand the force and exploded into powder, scattering in the air with a bloody mist. The spear pierced through more than 10 huge rockery before it blasted Lin Xian into a pile of ruins. Xiao Li was shocked. He did not expect that there would be an expert hiding nearby when the two of them were fighting. However, he did not move. Instead, he put away his saber and watched silently. He knew that an expert like Lin Xian would not die as long as he was not hit in the vitals. Therefore, he did not need to do anything in the following battle. After the successful attack, the mysterious person hiding in the darkness revealed himself. His body was covered in black mist, and he walked in the air like a ghost. He was very fast and arrived at the center of the old residence in the blink of an eye. He didn't look at Lin Xian. Instead, he stared at Xiao Li as a wisp of deep fear appeared on his face. Lin Xian was crippled after being stabbed by him. There was no need to worry about him at all. However, Xiao Li was unharmed. If the mysterious person attacked, he would not be able to take him down in a short time with his terrifying strength. He might even be killed by the mysterious person. However, what surprised him was that Xiao Li had no intention of attacking. The mysterious person secretly heaved a sigh of relief and stopped paying attention to Xiao Li. Instead, he turned to look at the ruins in front of him. Then, he revealed a sinister smile. He stretched out his palm and black mist surged around his body. It was extremely terrifying and formed a huge black hand that grabbed forward. The air cracked and there was a ghostly howl. The huge black hand quickly fell. However, just as he was about to land, a black flash pierced out like a black lightning bolt and illuminated the entire old residence. It was like a bolt of lightning that pierced through the black hand. The mysterious person's pupils constricted. He felt pain in his palm and immediately withdrew it. Then, he looked forward cautiously. The ruins exploded as a figure soared into the sky. This figure was naturally Lin Xian. At this moment, there was a bloody hole the size of a bowl on his left rib. The red lotus battle armor around him was shattered, forming numerous cracks. One could only imagine how terrifying that spear strike was. However, he had already pulled out his spear and held it in his left hand, while his right hand held a dragon's sword. His entire body was filled with killing intent, like a god of death. "Who sent you?" Lin Xian's voice was cold. "Humph, you'll never know. Brat, consider yourself lucky this time. Next time, I'll definitely take your dog life," the mysterious man said hatefully. Obviously, he was very unwilling to accept his failure this time. After failing to kill Lin Xian with a single strike, the thought of retreating sprouted in his heart, and he prepared to leave. "You want to leave?" Lin Xian sneered. "Do you think that's possible? Since you dare to kill me, then stay." "You? A seriously injured kid? Do you really think you're the number one of the younger generation?" The mysterious man sneered and suddenly turned around. His body was surrounded by a black aura, and his eyes were like two black spears that pierced through the void. "You'll know soon enough whether I can or not." Lin Xian's expression was cold. With a shake of his left arm, he threw the spear in his hand. Buzz! The black spear in his hand was thrown out, and it instantly turned into a black torrent that rushed rapidly toward the mysterious man. This spear was even more powerful than the one before. "What?" The mysterious man's pupils constricted. He did not expect Lin Xian to still have such strength despite being seriously injured. In great shock, he dodged with all his might. With a roar, he was like the king of hell. He quickly moved horizontally, leaving behind clouds of black mist in the void. At the critical moment, the mysterious man displayed his extreme speed and narrowly dodged the spear. However, Lin Xian was even faster. The tempest wings appeared on his back and flapped rapidly. Then, he disappeared into the air. The power of tempest surged. His entire body turned into a flash of lightning and appeared near the black spear in an instant. Lin Xian stretched out his left hand and grabbed the black spear. Then, his arms danced rapidly. The sky was filled with spear radiance. The black spear shadows intertwined to form a net of death that quickly enveloped the mysterious man. The momentum was terrifying. Impossible! The mysterious man was horrified. His eyes were filled with horror. He did not expect Lin Xian to be so fast that he could catch up with the black spear. At this moment, he finally revealed a look of fear. A genius was indeed a genius. Even if he was seriously injured, he was not someone that ordinary people could contend with. However, since he dared to assassinate Lin Xian, he was naturally very confident in his own strength. The mysterious man roared and calmed down from his initial shock. Then, he quickly threw a punch forward. The terrifying fist was as black as iron and as heavy as a demonic mountain. It quickly blasted forward, trying to tear the net of death apart. Suddenly, the void trembled violently. Like thousands of horses galloping, it carried a violent force and collided with the net of death formed by the intertwined spear radiance. Boom boom! A low sound was heard. The black fist collided with the net of death, causing the net to tremble violently. However, under Lin Xian's mysterious control, the net of death bloomed with a dazzling light. Once again, it transformed into countless spear radiance and quickly pierced towards the mysterious man. This change was very shocking. The mysterious man was shocked and quickly counterattacked. However, the spear radiance was too dense. Even if he was incomparably strong, he was still bombarded. The violent force caused his body to tremble continuously. He frantically retreated, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. "Kid, you deserve to die. I will take your dog life one day." The mysterious man did not dare to stay any longer. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and quickly turned to leave. "Want to leave?" Lin Xian sneered. Looking at the mysterious man who had turned into a ray of light, he quickly drew his sword. The great dragon sword in his hand was as fast as lightning. Everlasting green cloud. A flash of sword radiance, as dazzling as the Milky Way, instantly lit up the entire sky. A miserable cry was heard. It was very ear-piercing in the boundless night. The mysterious man had just reached the wall of the ancient castle when he was slashed by the dazzling sword radiance. He roared crazily and used all his means to resist, but the sword radiance was too powerful. It instantly cut him in half. The black-robed man suffered a heavy blow. The black fog around his body quickly retreated, revealing an old body. It was an old man. At this moment, his face was pale and filled with fear. He could not understand why Lin Xian's sword radiance was so fierce. Lin Xian's figure flashed. Like lightning, he instantly arrived beside the old man. The great dragon sword in his hand slanted and pointed at the old man's throat. I'll give you one last chance. Speak. Who sent you? Kid, you'll never know. Even if you become a venerable in the future, you won't be able to fight against us. The mysterious old man roared ferociously. His voice was filled with intense unwillingness. Then, a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. He quickly reversed the spiritual power in his body. An extremely powerful force was being nurtured in his body, and it exploded with a loud bang. In an instant, the energy that could destroy more than half of the city enveloped Lin Xian. Chapter 658. The mysterious old man had chosen to self-destruct in an attempt to drag Lin Xian down with him. A force capable of destroying half a city gushed out and enveloped Lin Xian in an instant. Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he quickly slashed out with the great dragon sword in his hand. Streaks of dazzling sword rays shot out in all directions like thunder from the ninth heaven. Suddenly, the terrifying sword chi slashed apart the violent energy. At the same time, he reached out with his left hand and grabbed a token with lightning speed to prevent it from being destroyed by the energy. Chi. At this moment, the sword chi surrounded Lin Xian, creating a small vacuum. The destructive energy quickly dissipated when it reached this place. For a moment, Lin Xian was safe and sound, but the surrounding ancient castle was in danger. If the energy dissipated, the entire ancient mansion would be turned into ashes in an instant. In the distance, Shaoli snorted coldly. He unsheathed his jet-black saber and quickly slashed out 18 times. The blazing saber rays flashed, bringing with them a dazzling brilliance. It was as if the Milky Way was rushing through the void, roaring incessantly. In the next moment, the wanton energy mass was also split apart and shattered under the saber rays. The violent flow of energy wreaked havoc in the ancient mansion, but it was not in danger of being blown into ashes. Lin Xian and Xiao Li's actions quickly dissipated the violent energy. It did not have any effect at all. However, the mysterious old man would not know about this because he had been turned into ashes along with the terrifying energy. This guy is ruthless. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He did not expect that the old man would choose to self-destruct rather than reveal his identity. He must be afraid of his revenge. However, at the last moment, he grabbed a token. At this moment, he opened his left hand to reveal the token inside. This token was only half the size of his palm. The pattern was simple and unadorned, and the word Shun was engraved in the center. Seeing this token, Lin Xian immediately understood. This old man was from the Shen family, which meant that he had been sent by Shen Yaotian. Humph, if I have the chance in the future, I will definitely return this gift to the Shen family. Lin Xian snorted coldly and crushed the token in his hand. Then, he turned to Shaoli and said, "All right, we can continue our battle." However, Shaoli shook his head. "You're injured. Even if I win, it would be an unfair victory." Lin Xian frowned slightly. He really didn't have much confidence in his current state. Previously, I made you wait for 2 hours while I was cleaning my saber. Now, I'll give you 2 hours. When you've recovered, we'll fight again," Shaoli said in a deep voice. "All right." Lin Xian did not stand on ceremony. He quickly sat cross-legged on the ground and began to heal his wounds. Although the wound looked terrifying, it wasn't a big deal for someone like Lin Xian who had a strong constitution. Moreover, he had the art of longevity, so he could recover very quickly. However, the real problem was not his wounds, but the strange black aura in his body. This aura came from the black spear. It carried a sinister and strange aura. It was very evil and was rapidly destroying his bodily functions. Fortunately, Lin Xian had the great dragon sword soul in his body, which prevented his body from being destroyed. If it were someone else, they would have become an evil spirit by now. In 2 hours, he had eliminated the chi of the resentful spirit in his body and healed his wounds. Then, he confronted Xiaoli again. Strong fighting spirit burst out from their eyes. Two powerful auras gushed out from their bodies and soared into the sky. This time, they did not compete with their martial techniques. Instead, they used their martial souls to fight. A black saber shadow tore through the sky. It was like a rainbow hanging from the 9 heavens, shining brightly. On the other side, Lin Xian's great dragon sword soul exploded. A dragon-shaped sword shadow rushed out and pierced the clouds. When the saber soul and sword soul appeared, the surrounding weather changed. Endless gales surged and covered the cold moon in the sky. At this moment, all the martial artists in Quicksand City felt two shocking forces coming from afar. The aura made them tremble. Ordinary martial artists only trembled and did not know what was happening. However, those martial artists who had condensed the embryonic form of their martial souls were all shocked. They could naturally sense the two forces. Those were the embryonic forms of their martial souls. Moreover, they were extremely powerful. They were only one step away from evolving and becoming a real martial soul. So powerful. Who is this? Is he going to break through? At this moment, all the martial artists in Quicksand City were shocked. Countless people soared into the sky and flew towards the source of the two forces. They wanted to know who had reached the final step and was about to break through to the honorable realm. However, just as they soared into the sky, an intense vibration came from the void. The terrifying energy turned into a strong wind that blew in all directions. It shook them until their faces turned pale. What's going on? Those two forces are colliding. Oh my God! Someone is fighting. At this moment, even the honorables could not remain calm. They all stretched out their soul perception to see what was going on. Inside the old mansion, Lin Xian and Xiaoli collided for the first time. The sword and saber souls collided and released an earth-shattering energy shock wave. In an instant, Lin Xian and Xiaoli felt as if they were struck by lightning. Their bodies trembled, and they each took half a step back. Then, Lin Xian roared and activated the great dragon sword soul again. He slashed forward. Xiaoli did not want to fall behind and quickly met the attack. Rumble. The void trembled and the ground cracked. Countless waves of air rolled and rushed in all directions. Piercing light shone in the sky, forming a curtain of light that swept across the sky. Lin Xian and Xiaoli collided wildly. After 9 attacks, both of them took 10 steps back and their bodies swayed. Barf. Xiaoli finally could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. On the other hand, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and his eyes shone brightly. In the next moment, an astonishing dragon roar and sword cry came from his body. It was as if he had broken some kind of shackle. An extremely powerful and mysterious force filled his body. He let out a long roar and a look of ecstasy appeared in his eyes. He did not care about anything else and withdrew the great dragon sword soul. He turned into a sword light and instantly left the old mansion, disappearing into the sky. Not long after, the soul perception of the honorables covered the sky and earth. In the distance, countless figures were running wildly toward this place. Xiaoli used a mysterious technique to suppress the injuries in his body. Then, he snorted and a shocking saber light soared into the sky. Those who trespass into the old mansion will be killed without mercy. A cold voice resounded and echoed in the surroundings. Immediately, the figures in the distance stopped and did not dare to move forward. Xiaoli, it's Xiaoli. The people in the distance were terrified. They did not expect Xiaoli to have reached this step and was only a hair away from entering the true honorable realm. However, judging from the current aura, Xiaoli was still in the embryonic form of a sword soul and had not broken through. This made everyone secretly relieved. No, someone was fighting just now. Who was fighting with Xiaoli? The people were puzzled and came to a realization. This was because they sensed that the other aura was not weaker than Xiaoli's. The embryonic form of the martial soul was very powerful and was only a hair away from breaking through and becoming a true martial soul. At this moment, they did not know the result of the battle, nor did they know who the other person was. Chapter 659. Looks like the two of them are fighting to find an opportunity to break through. I wonder who will win. If that person wins, he might be able to condense a true martial soul. Everyone was shocked as they discussed. The sovereigns were silent and sighed in the end. They had already sensed the remnant aura with their soul power and guessed the other party's identity. The sovereigns were silent because they had already guessed that person's identity, especially the sovereigns of Blackwood Stronghold. Their faces were terrifyingly dark. They were even unwilling to accept this fact. However, the remnant aura of the sword soul stimulated them, indicating that their guess was not wrong. The sovereign withdrew his soul and gathered the elders in the clan to discuss countermeasures. Damn it! How could it be that thief? Everyone's faces were ugly. They could not accept this at all, especially Heimuya. When he heard the news, his body trembled and his eyes turned black. He almost fainted from anger. No, this thief can't be left alive. I want him dead. Heimuya gritted his teeth and said. He did not expect the other party to be so terrifying and reach such a height. Originally, he wanted to take revenge himself, but now, if the other party really condensed a martial soul, he would have no chance. Not only him, this was an outcome that no one in Blackwood Stronghold wanted to see. No, we have to get rid of him, and we have to do it tonight. The Blackwood Stronghold Patriarch said in a deep voice. This time, he planned to send out sovereigns. Blackwood Stronghold was not the only one with this idea. Shin Yao Eon was also angry. His face was ferocious and terrifying. He had sent out his bodyguard to assassinate Lin Xian, but he did not expect that he would fail. Moreover, the other party might even break through. As a genius of the House of Kings, he would not allow such a thing to happen. Therefore, he immediately sent out his personal sovereigns to kill Lin Xian. For a moment, two sovereigns secretly moved out and quickly ran towards Lin Xian's courtyard. Lin Xian returned from the old house and immediately entered the courtyard. He let the Crimson Dragon set up a defensive array. When the Crimson Dragon saw Lin Xian covered in wounds, its eyelids twitched. Boy, how many people did you fight? How did you end up in such a sorry state? Not many, just 3 geniuses. What? 3 Sky Prides? 3 geniuses in 2 days. You're crazy, the Crimson Dragon exclaimed. It was well aware of the prodigy's strength. They weren't any weaker than Lin Xian. Perhaps only a madman like Lin Shui could carry out 3 life and death battles in such a short period of time. Furthermore, what shocked it even more was that it felt an extremely powerful martial soul power within Lin Xian's body. Is he going to break through? It seems that it's much earlier than I thought. The Crimson Dragon was shocked again. According to its estimation, Lin Xian should have needed more than 10 days to break through, but it didn't expect him to reach this point in just 2 or 3 days. This kind of speed, in the history of cultivation, not to mention that no one would be able to match it in the future, it was absolutely unprecedented. At this moment, the power in Lin Xian's body was growing stronger and stronger. The terrifying power seemed to be about to burst him. He had to immediately go into seclusion to condense his sword soul. Otherwise, if he missed this opportunity, it would be very difficult for him to have such an opportunity in the future. Ruzalong, no matter what happens tonight, you must block it. Don't let anyone in. Lin Xian instructed. If you can survive tonight, all the primordial yang stones will be yours in the future. Don't worry, leave it to Ben Huang. The Crimson Dragon shouted excitedly when it heard the 3 words, primordial yang stones. Then, Lin Xian released the snow-white monkey and let it join forces with the Crimson Dragon to guard him. He sat cross-legged under the ancient tree and quickly entered a state of cultivation with his hands forming seals. It was a moonless and windy night, the perfect time to kill someone. The venerables of the Blackwood Castle were the first to arrive above Lin Xian's courtyard. Then, he snorted coldly and quickly pressed down. The void vibrated and the airflow rapidly formed a huge palm, which quickly blasted down on the courtyard below. Bang! When the huge palm was 100 meters away from the ground, it was blocked and made a deep sound. There's a formation. The venerables of the Blackwood Castle were stunned. This time, the venerables was a middle-aged man. He had a scar on his face, which made him look unusually ferocious and terrifying. At this moment, the scarred man frowned slightly. A formation that could block his attack was probably not an ordinary one. It seemed that the other party had made sufficient preparations beforehand. It's just a formation. Do you really think you can stop a Venerables? What a joke. The scarred Venerable sneered disdainfully. He did not plan to waste time, and decided to attack with all his might to end the battle quickly. After all, he was a Venerables. If news of him assassinating a young genius with unlimited potential were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge impact. At least the Palace of Ares would not let them off. Therefore, he did not attack again. Instead, his body shone brightly, and he quickly fell down like a meteor. In the courtyard, the Crimson Dragon looked solemn. It looked outside while waving its dragon claws to control the formation. Damn it, they sent a Venerables? The Blackwood family is really shameless. The Crimson Dragon stomped its feet in anger. If Ben Huang still had his cultivation, he would definitely kill them all with a slap. Crack, crack, crack. Just as it was getting angry, a crisp cracking sound came from the sky above. Countless cracks appeared like a mirror. Damn it, they're attacking again. The Crimson Dragon cursed in a low voice and quickly operated the formation to counteract the terrifying power. However, it had underestimated the determination of the Blackwood Fortress Venerables. In addition, it had lost its dragon origin and could only use part of the formation's power. Currently, it could only passively defend for a while. Wooji, wooji, wooji. The little white monkey was anxious as it watched from the side. Its body swayed, and it was about to rush out. Little ancestor, you can't go out. The dark red divine dragon was quick to react. It grabbed Snowy White Snow and consoled her. If the little white monkey went out and was caught, Lin Xian would definitely fight it to the death when he woke up. Don't worry, Ben Huang's formation won't be so weak. It can last for at least 2 hours. The Crimson Dragon gritted its teeth and said, if it doesn't work, I'll risk losing a bit of my dragon origin to defend the formation. In the outside world, the Blackwood Fortress Venerable's attacks had failed twice, which made him extremely angry. A small formation had actually blocked his path. If news of this were to spread, he would definitely become the laughingstock of everyone. Thinking of this, a hint of viciousness appeared in his eyes. Then, he used his martial soul and made a terrifying attack. Crack, crack, crack. The entire formation shook violently as if it would fall apart at any time. The Crimson Dragon's eyes were red like a rabbit's. Damn it, you dare to use your martial soul. Do you really think Ben Huang is easy to bully? He gritted his teeth and cursed. Then, he spat out a drop of dragon blood and sent it into the formation above. Suddenly, the formation trembled and emitted a bright red light. The formation that was on the verge of collapse became firm again. Chapter 660. What? When the Venerable from Blackwood Stronghold saw this scene, his expression became extremely unsightly. He decided that after breaking the formation, he would torture the person who cast it to death. Although the scar-faced man was extremely careful, it still attracted the attention of some people. At the very least, Nan Gongseng and Ma Rulong had been paying close attention. I've already asked for help from my family, but they haven't come yet. What about you? Nan Gongseng asked anxiously. I've also sent a message to the ancestor. I think he'll be here soon. Ma Rulong and Nan Gongseng both invited experts from their families to help. They knew that tonight was especially important for Lin Xian. If they succeeded, Lin Xian would transform into a dragon and become a true powerhouse. The hostile forces of Blackwood Stronghold definitely didn't want to see this result, so they would definitely take advantage of tonight to make a move. Sure enough, the two of them secretly observed and discovered that Blackwood Stronghold had actually sent out a Venerable. Fortunately, Lin Xian's courtyard was protected by a defensive formation, or else the situation would be terrible. Above, the scar-faced Venerable was furious. He raised his fist and wanted to bombard the defensive formation below again. At this moment, an old laugh sounded, followed by a ripple in the void. A terrifying energy fluctuation dispersed the attack of the scar-faced Venerable. Haha, your Blackwood Stronghold really doesn't have a good memory. Have you forgotten the warning from last time? The scar-faced Venerable frowned as he looked at the old figure in front of him and exclaimed, "The Ma family's ancestor." He didn't expect such a terrifying and powerful figure to make a move. Immediately, his expression became extremely ugly. His strength was at the first heaven of the venerable realm, but the other party was at the second heaven of the venerable realm or even higher. Although it was only a difference of one heaven, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. If they really fought, he wouldn't be able to contend at all. However, this operation was very important to them. They had to succeed and couldn't fail. With a cold snort, the scar-faced venerable waved his hand and sent out a signal from his family. Immediately, two more figures rushed over and instantly arrived beside the scar-faced venerable. Two more venerables. It seemed that Blackwood's stronghold had made a great decision this time. They actually sent 3 venerables to assassinate Lin Xian. Ha 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 ha. It's so lively here. A loud laugh sounded, followed by the appearance of a white-robed old man who stood beside the Ma family's ancestor. Nangong family. The scarred venerable one's pupils contracted. He did not expect the Nangong family to attack. Behind him, the 2 venerable ones who had just rushed over had ghastly looks on their faces. Their opponents were 2 old monsters, and their strength was above theirs. Even if the 3 of them worked together, they might not succeed. Was today's mission really going to fail? Could he only watch as that little thief broke through? The scarred venerable sir and the other 2 were not willing to give up. If they were 2 days late, their great elder and the people of the Divine Bird Palace would have arrived. By then, they would not have to fear the Ma and Nangong families. However, he never expected Lin Xian to break through so quickly. Right now, they didn't have any extra combat power. If you know what's good for you, then quickly scram back. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being impolite. The Ma family's old ancestor said with a smile. Let's go. With us here, you won't be able to break through. The elder of the Nangong family said in a deep voice. Unless he had no other choice, he didn't want to make a move against the 3 of them. After all, they were all exalted realm experts, and if any mishap were to occur, then Blackwood's stronghold would definitely go mad. At that time, it wouldn't be a war between individuals, but a war between the 2 families. The scarred venerable sir and the other 2 had ugly expressions. They struggled internally, but in the end, they snorted and decided to leave. However, just as they turned around, a cold snort came from afar. Can't break through? What big words! The cold voice was like the roar of a ferocious beast, resounding in the void. The voice was filled with killing intent, causing the scarred venerable sir and the other 2 to tremble slightly. What a terrifying aura! This person's cultivation is definitely above the second heaven of the exalted realm. The 3 of them were shocked and hurriedly turned around. With a flash of light, a figure appeared in the void. This figure was covered in light, and it was impossible to see whether it was real or not. However, judging from the energy fluctuations on his body, the other party's strength was definitely not below the Ma family's old ancestor, or even stronger. To think that such an expert would actually come to kill Lin Xian. This was simply too surprising. For a moment, the Ma family's old ancestor and the Nangong family's elders' expressions became very serious. On the other hand, the scarred venerable sir and the other 2 were unusually excited. They originally thought that the mission was going to fail, but they did not expect the situation to turn around. At the last moment, a powerful helper appeared. The scarred venerable sir and the other 2 looked at the Ma family's old ancestor and sneered. Let's see how you're going to stop us this time. Their current lineup was too powerful. They could definitely tear apart the Ma family's old ancestor's line of defense. As long as one of the exalted venerables could enter the courtyard, they could immediately take Lin Xian's life. The mysterious exalted venerable sir floated in the air, emitting a cold killing intent. He looked ahead and said coldly, "Get lost, or don't blame me for killing you." Facing the Ma family's old ancestor and the Nangong family's elders, the mysterious exalted venerable sir was unusually arrogant. He did not even put the 2 of them in his eyes. Hearing that, the Ma family's old ancestor and elders' faces turned gloomy. They were respected and had never been humiliated like this. You want to go over? Speak with your abilities. Everyone knows how to talk, but I'm afraid you don't have that ability. The Ma family's old ancestor sneered. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. The mysterious exalted venerable sir's voice was cold. He threw out a punch, and the sky was filled with colorful clouds. The void trembled violently, and a force that could threaten an exalted venerable sir suddenly spread out and rushed toward the Ma family's old ancestor and elder. Destroy! The Ma family's old ancestor waved his sleeve, and instantly, a ray of light shot out like a giant mountain in front of him. The two collided, and there was a tremor that could tear the world apart. In an instant, the black mountain formed by the sleeve was shattered. The Ma family's old ancestor even took 3 steps back with a shocked face. "Umph!" The mysterious exalted venerable sir sneered and stood proudly. "I've already shown mercy with that punch. If you don't get lost, the next punch will be your death date." The Ma family's old ancestor was shocked. Although he did not use all his strength in that attack, it was still enough to show that the mysterious exalted venerable sir was stronger than him. Which force is it that wants to kill Lin Xian? His face was gloomy as he kept thinking. The scar-scarred venerable sir and the other two were ecstatic. The mysterious exalted venerable sir alone could definitely suppress the Ma family's old ancestor. The 3 of them could forcefully break through from Elder Nangong's hands. By then, they could definitely successfully kill Lin Xian below. However, just as they were about to make their move, the void in the center fluctuated, and there were ripples. A figure appeared out of thin air. It was a middle-aged scholar. He held a yellowed book in his hand and was reading it with great interest. The middle-aged scholar did not emit any terrifying aura. He looked like a real scholar, weak and powerless. If he was not standing in the void, no one would treat him as a martial artist. Where did this poor scholar come from? Hurry up and get lost. This is not a place where you can stay. On the Blackwood stronghold side, a skinny, exalted venerable sir with an aquiline nose shouted angrily and waved his palm. Chapter 661. Their plan was about to come to fruition, but now someone dared to obstruct them? Moreover, it was an unknown scholar. He was furious, so he didn't hold back at all. His palm wind was swift and fierce, and the power of a venerable was released. This move could definitely destroy more than half of a city. The void vibrated, and countless rays of light gushed out like a roaring galaxy, rushing toward the middle-aged scholar. The middle-aged scholar held the book in his right hand and looked ahead coldly. "You think you're qualified to use a palm technique? As far as I'm concerned, you're nothing." The middle-aged scholar looked ahead, and his expression was full of disdain. He stood there proudly, and with a cold snort, he quickly waved his left palm. A tyrannical power gushed out along with that palm. Suddenly, a violent wind blew, and the void cracked. Countless rays of light gushed out and condensed into a huge palm of light. Wherever it passed, the void was annihilated. This palm was too powerful, and that violent and arrogant aura was definitely rare in the world. The 2 palms collided. The middle-aged scholar's palm shadow was like a furious dragon, roaring ferociously, and instantly shattered the opponent's palm shadow. After that, the palm of light rushed toward the venerable of the Blackwood Castle with dazzling rays of light, like a galloping primordial beast. The divine light was dazzling, and the terrifying palm shadow was like a shooting star, carrying a dazzling radiance as it smashed forward. Bang! That hook-nosed venerable was instantly sent flying, and a rain of blood fell from the sky. What? The scar-faced venerable and the old man were frightened, as if they had seen a ghost. This middle-aged scholar was too powerful, and he had seriously injured their companion with a casual palm strike. Even the Ma family's old man and the old man were astonished. This middle-aged scholar looked weak, but when he attacked, his strength was definitely beyond theirs. In the distance, the mysterious venerable was floating in the void. He stared at the middle-aged scholar, and after a long time, he said in a deep voice, "Wild Palm Scholar? Oh, you know me, so it seems you're not from the drifting sand region." The middle-aged scholar smiled indifferently. "Since you know who I am, then hurry up and get lost, so I don't have to attack again." His voice wasn't loud, but the arrogance in it made everyone fearful. They didn't expect this middle-aged scholar to be even more arrogant than the mysterious venerable. The scar-faced venerable and the others had a bitter expression. They couldn't do anything in the current situation, and could only rely on the mysterious venerable. If the other party lost, they would definitely retreat obediently. The mysterious martial highness harumphed coldly. His murderous aura skyrocketed like a burning divine spear. I've heard that the wild palm scholar's palm art is extremely exquisite. Today, I would like to experience it for myself. The mysterious supreme expert suddenly made his move. His body turned into a streak of lightning as he rushed over at an inconceivable speed. He punched out, and his terrifying fist tore through the sky. It was like an ancient demonic mountain that came crashing down. This fist was too heavy, causing the entire void to tremble. Looking from afar, it was as if a meteorite had descended from the heavens, stirring up 1,000 layers of waves. For a moment, the Ma family's patriarch and the others all retreated, giving them enough distance. The middle-aged scholar was still holding the yellowed book, but his expression was no longer lazy. His eyes had become sharp. Then, he waved his palm. The sky was collapsing. Following this palm strike, the entire region collapsed. Billowing waves of energy rose up to a height of 300 meters and spread out in all directions. At this moment, the entire sky was boiling. Countless rays of light flickered, burning like flames. The terrifying fist and the blazing palm shadow intertwined, forming countless energy storms that surged in the sky. The light made the stars and moon in the sky dim. After pushing out his palm, the middle-aged scholar became incomparably violent. His body was dazzling like a golden sun. Stormy wave palm. The palm shadow was like a roaring wave. Huge energy tsunamis surged forward, sealing off all directions. The sky rumbled incessantly. An indescribable aura shrouded Quicksand City as if a real sea had appeared in the sky. At this moment, everyone in Quicksand City saw this strange phenomenon. Of course, that terrifying aura made them tremble. The mysterious supreme expert's expression finally changed. Facing this arrogant palm, he did not take it head-on. Instead, he chose to retreat. However, the light palm was too powerful and firmly locked onto him. In the end, he could not avoid it and could only take it head-on. Boom! As if thunder had exploded, the mysterious supreme expert was blasted back hundreds of meters. He directly stepped on the void and cracked it. His arm was trembling slightly, and there were drops of blood dripping from his fingertips. This palm had injured him. Wild Palm Scholar, I'll remember this palm. I'll definitely return it in the future. The mysterious supreme expert snorted coldly and then soared into the sky. Such a huge commotion had long alarmed everyone. Moreover, with the Wild Palm Scholar around, he could not make a move at all. Seeing that the mysterious supreme expert had retreated, the hearts of the scar-scarred venerable and the other two trembled. They did not dare to stay any longer and quickly turned into rays of light and disappeared. The operation to kill Lin Xin collapsed just like that. After the middle-aged scholar repelled the powerful enemy, he did not stay and quickly disappeared into the void. The great ancestor of the Ma family and the elder of the Nangong family looked at each other and flew down. It seemed that Lin Xin was safe, and they did not have to stay there anymore. In the courtyard, the Crimson Dragon had been observing the situation outside. At this moment, when it saw that everyone had retreated, it heaved a sigh of relief. Otherwise, its formation would not be able to withstand so many venerables. Lin Xin did not know about this. He closed his eyes tightly and formed a strange seal with his hands. Wisps of spiritual sword chi flowed out of his body and circled around him. The area around him was completely filled with sword chi. These sword chi intertwined and formed a unique domain. The entire phenomenon lasted for a full 3 days before it gradually disappeared. Finally, a shocking dragon roar and sword cry sounded. In a trance, the shadow of a divine sword rushed into the sky. In the next moment, these sounds and phenomena quickly disappeared. Lin Xin opened his eyes. His gaze was like a materialized sword light that was 30 meters long. It pierced through the void and surged in all directions. At this moment, he was extremely excited like a child. After 3 life-and-death battles, he had finally condensed a true martial soul. Although he had not entered the venerable state, His true combat strength was not weaker than a first-stage venerable state martial artist at all. Moreover, his cultivation had increased again and reached the peak of the spirit-detecting state. It could be said that the current Lin Xian's strength had a qualitative leap. The current him was definitely the #1 person among the younger generation in the Sand region. Let's go out for a stroll. Lin Xian was in a good mood and went out with the snow-white little monkey and the crimson dragon. After obtaining a sword soul, he did not have to be afraid of doing things because he already had the ability to contend with venerables. Lin Xian walked on the street and immediately caused a commotion. They knew about the phenomenon in the sky 3 days ago. Several venerables failed to kill Lin Xian, and this caused a huge sensation in Quicksand City. Now, the source of this sensation, the target that countless venerables wanted to kill, had appeared. Chapter 662. Lin Xian's appearance caused a stir among the crowd. Many people were shocked, but they were also very curious. They wanted to know what realm Lin Xian had reached and whether he had condensed a true martial soul. However, no one dared to try. Unless they were geniuses, they would not be able to do so. Lin Xian ignored these people and walked toward the Divine Dragon Pavilion's arena with a satisfied expression. Brother Xian, you're here. Nan Gongseng was pleasantly surprised to see Lin Xian. Then, Ma Rulong also came out. The two of them pulled Lin Xian into the backyard. How is it? Did you break through? Ma Rulong's eyes were eager.
Yes.
Lin Xian nodded. He had just broken through to the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. Nan Gongseng spat out a mouthful of spirit tea. Who asked about that? I'm talking about martial souls. Martial souls. Lin Xian smiled and rubbed his nose. Take a guess. Big brother, don't keep us in suspense. Hurry up and tell us. Looking at brother Lin's appearance, he must have succeeded. Ma Rulong's face was filled with envy. He did succeed. Lin Xian smiled. Don't worry, I'll definitely find a way to help you condense martial souls. The Crimson Dragon had told him about what happened that night. Lin Xian was grateful to the two of them for inviting their family's venerables. He knew that he had not made these two friends for nothing, so he would definitely do his best to help them break through. Really? Their eyes lit up when they heard that. Venerables were powerhouses. Just their lifespan alone was at least 800 years. It was definitely something that would make countless warriors go crazy. Brother Xian, I'll follow you from now on. Nan Gongseng shouted excitedly. He was only at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. Under normal circumstances, he would never be able to reach the Venerable's realm in his lifetime. But now, Lin Xian had given him hope. How could he not be excited? Ma Rulong was also excited. He was also a genius, and his goal in life was to reach the Venerable's realm. According to his natural talent and resources, he might be able to enter the Exalt realm in 100 to 200 years. However, things were different now. With Lin Xian around, he knew that this time would be greatly reduced. After all, Lin Xian had merely utilized an extremely short period of time to advance into the Exalt realm. Wait a moment. Lin Xian began collecting the items left behind by Lord Alcohol. Back then, Lord Alcohol had left behind a lot of information on martial arts manuals, array formations, and pills. Lin Xian had been busy breaking through his martial soul and hadn't studied them carefully. He remembered that among the materials, there were some martial arts that should be very suitable for the two of them. Now was the time to take them out. Found it. Lin Xian smiled, then took out a jade slip to defend his forehead and copied the martial arts into it. Soon, he handed the 2 jade slips to the two of them. Brother Ma, this is a sacred flame spear art. It is a half-earth tier martial art. It is not suitable for you to take a look. Hearing this, Ma Rulong's eyes lit up and he was pleasantly surprised. Although a half-earth tier martial art was inferior to an earth tier martial art, it was still an extremely rare existence. Now that Lin Xian had given it to him so generously, he was truly surprised. At the same time, he made a decision in his heart. He would follow Lin Xian for the rest of his life. Me. Nan Gongseng anxiously shouted. Don't worry, I won't forget about you. Lin Xian smiled and took out the other jade slip. This is the water element Gentle Fist. It is also a half-earth tier martial art. Really? That's great. Nan Gongsang excitedly said. The two of them excitedly watched. Then, they followed Lin Xian to the Alliance Arena to sign up. There were only a few days left until the Alliance Arena began. He had to sign up in order to obtain the Divine Dream Bone. With Nan Gongsang and Ma Rulong, the three of them set off together. The Alliance Arena was jointly organized by several top forces of Quicksand City. Among them were the Blackwood family, Nangong family, Ma family, and others. After Lin Xian appeared, the people from the other forces were still fine. But the people from Blackwood Stronghold all had gloomy complexions. These people's eyes burned with anger. They wished that they could skin Lin Xian alive. Among them, Blackwood Cliff was also present. After he saw Lin Xian, his entire body emitted a terrifying aura, as if he wished to rush forwards and slap him to death. But he didn't do anything. This was because he didn't know whether or not Lin Xian had broken through to that step. If Lin Xian made a breakthrough, then he would only be looking for trouble. Thus, before he could ascertain Lin Xian's true strength, he wouldn't do anything. However, he didn't conceal the cold killing intent that surged from his body at all. Brother Blackwood, what's the matter? Several youths beside him asked, puzzled. These youths wore 5-colored battle robes and had arrogant expressions. It was clear that they weren't from Quicksand City, but rather disciples of some great outer region influence. It's nothing. I just saw an old enemy. Blackwood Cliff shook his head. This guy's strength is unfathomable. I'm afraid that in the younger generation of the Sand region, no one can match him. The reason why Blackwood Cliff said this was, of course, to draw hatred towards Lin Xian. The youths beside him weren't ordinary youths, but genius martial artists from the Divine Bird Palace. These people often had their eyes on top of their heads and were very arrogant. They didn't put anyone in their eyes. They were even more unconvinced of those famous martial artists in the Sand region. It was best for them to investigate Lin Xian's strength. Moreover, if Lin Xian was too strong and injured the other party, that would be even better. At that time, Lin Xian and the Divine Bird Palace would become enemies. With the strength of the Divine Bird Palace, killing Lin Xian would be a matter of minutes. Therefore, in front of these Divine Bird Palace disciples, Blackwood Cliff praised Lin Xian to the sky. Sure enough, after the youths of the Divine Bird Palace heard this, they all looked at Lin Xian. Their eyes flashed coldly. One of the single-eyed youths laughed disdainfully. Number one of the younger generation? Him? Brother Blackwood, are you mistaken? This kid's aura is very weak. I'm afraid he hasn't even reached the limit of the spirit channeling realm. How can he be the number one of the younger generation? Don't underestimate him. I once lost to him. In order to make this youth fight, Blackwood Cliff didn't hesitate to reveal the scandal of his defeat. What? You lost to him? The youths were surprised. Their eyes were full of doubt. Blackwood Cliff didn't look like he was lying. Could it be that this seemingly weak youth really had a terrifying battle strength? Be careful. That kid also likes Murong Goddess. I'm afraid he's a strong opponent. Blackwood Cliff said insidiously. Humph. We'll know if he's strong or not. One of the single-eyed youths revealed an evil smile and strode forward. As a genius of the Divine Bird Palace, he naturally didn't put others in his eyes, especially this Sand region genius. In his eyes, the Sand region was just a remote place. How could there be a genius in such a place? It was just a fight between frogs at the bottom of a well. Moreover, the opponent's aura was pitifully weak, so he didn't put him in his eyes. A sneer appeared in Blackwood Cliff's eyes. He quickly followed. His goal had been achieved. The next step was to see how strong both sides were. Chapter 663. Lin Xian and Nan Gongsang were watching in the crowd. Suddenly, he felt a strong killing intent coming towards him. Frowning, he turned his head and squinted his eyes, because he saw a young man in a colorful robe walking towards him with He Muya and the others behind him. Although he didn't know the young man, Lin Xian was familiar with his clothes. It was the clothes of the Divine Bird Palace. He didn't expect the people of the Divine Bird Palace to come. He just didn't know if these people were here for the competition or to catch him. Lin Xian was puzzled and secretly vigilant. However, he wasn't afraid. After he condensed a real sword soul, he didn't fear the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. Now that he had a real sword soul, Lin Xian even dared to challenge venerables, let alone these young warriors. So, seeing the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace coming, he sneered. If they didn't open their eyes and dared to trouble him, he didn't mind using them as a test. It just so happened that he also wanted to try his strength after condensing a real sword soul. Nan Gongseng and Ma Rulong also saw the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace coming towards them. If it was before, the two of them would be on guard. But now, they weren't nervous at all. Instead, they looked like they were watching a show. They knew that Lin Xian had condensed a real martial soul and was definitely the #1 person in the younger generation. Even the older generation experts might not be his match, let alone these people. So, in their opinion, those who dared to trouble Lin Xian were definitely courting death. You're the #1 person in the younger generation of the Sand region? The young man with eyelids walked up and looked at Lin Xian condescendingly. He didn't know Lin Xian's name, and he didn't participate in the mission to kill Lin Xian, so he didn't know Lin Xian. Moreover, he didn't think in that direction. Lin Xian's eyes were cold as he carefully looked at the young man in front of him. These people were between the ages of 25 to 30, and they were almost 10 years older than Lin Xian. It could be said that these people were the true young elites of the Divine Bird Palace. The people that Lin Xian had met in the Lost Lands could only be regarded as the reserve team of the Divine Bird Palace. The strength of those people was much weaker than the ones in front of him. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly. If that's what you think, I don't have any objections. Brat, you're very arrogant. Do you know who you're talking to? The young man with single eyelids had a cold look in his eyes. He believed that if the other party knew his identity, he would be scared shitless. What status? Aren't you just a stupid bird? You don't even know that you've been used as a tool. How pathetic. Shui Lin sneered in disdain. How could he not know about Blackwood Cliff's little tricks? He just couldn't be bothered. However, since the other party dared to come knocking on his door, he naturally wouldn't show any mercy. Brat, you're courting death. The young man with single eyelids' face darkened and his eyes burned with anger. In an instant, a divine light materialized and pierced towards Lin Xian. At the same time, he raised his left palm and quickly blasted towards Lin Xian. As a genius warrior of the Divine Bird Palace, he had a trace of the Divine Bird's blood flowing in his body. Now a brat dared to call him a stupid bird. This was the greatest blasphemy to him. Only by killing him could he relieve the hatred in his heart. Facing the attack of the young man with single eyelids, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and released 2 rays of sword light to meet the other party's gaze. At the same time, he snorted and pointed his finger like a sword. Clang! The 2 materialized gazes collided, causing the void to tremble and bursting out a series of sparks. Then, Lin Xian's sword finger pointed at the other party's palm and repelled the young man with single eyelids. I'm going to kill you. The young man with single eyelids took 5 steps back. His handsome face became extremely ferocious. His left hand hung down powerlessly, and there was a horrible bloody hole in his palm with blood flowing out. What? Heimui's face changed greatly. He was the closest and naturally saw the whole process. Lin Xian injured the genius of the Divine Bird Palace with just 1 finger. This kind of strength was terrifying. Could it be that he has really reached that step? Heimui's face was very ugly, but he was very puzzled because he did not feel the power of the martial soul at all. The others were also shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to fight with someone as soon as he came out. Moreover, he injured the foreign genius with just 1 move. The other disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were even more shocked and had a dull look on their faces. The young man with single eyelids was considered a superior existence among them, but he could not withstand 1 finger from the other party. They could not accept this fact at all. The young man with single eyelids had a ferocious look on his face. He was like an injured beast that had lost his mind. As a genius of the Divine Bird Palace, he had always been the center of attention. This time, he came to the quicksand region and did not put the indigenous warriors in his eyes. In his opinion, how could there be any masters in such a barbaric place? However, he was injured the first time he fought, and it was by 1 finger. This was absolutely a great humiliation to him. Boy, I'm going to kill you. The young man with single eyelids went crazy. He could not accept being injured in front of so many people. With a roar, his right fist suddenly blasted out. It was as if a galaxy was roaring in the void. The divine light was dazzling, and the void shook violently. This fist was like a shocking rainbow, dazzling to the extreme. The terrifying power hovered in the air, forming a spiral attack that quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. If this punch hit, Lin Xian's head would definitely explode. Lin Xian sneered. His finger moved in the void and slashed forward. His movements were very soft and light, as if he was swatting a fly. A sword light quickly swept through the void. The sword shadow was translucent and as fast as lightning. It only made the air vibrate slightly, and then it arrived in front of the young man with single eyelids. Everyone only saw the young man's body tremble violently, and then he flew out at a speed faster than before. Boom! The young man landed 100 meters away, and a terrible crack appeared on the ground. The armor on his chest was all cracked, and a terrible sword mark appeared on his abdomen. If it was deeper, his whole body would have been split in half. Hiss! Everyone gasped. What kind of skill was this? It was terrifying. He seriously injured the genius of Divine Bird Palace with one blow. The rest of the disciples of Divine Bird Palace quickly came to the young man with single eyelids, looking nervous. Then they looked at Lin Xian with a strong murderous intent in their eyes. Next to them, He Muya recovered from the initial shock, and then he was ecstatic. He made his move. Lin Xian injured a disciple of Divine Bird Palace. He was definitely going to die. With pride in his heart, He Muya sneered, "Boy, do you know who you injured? Humph, it's just a little bird. How dare they call themselves Divine Bird Palace? They don't deserve the word divine." Next to him, the Crimson Dragon waved his dragon claws and said with disdain. Chapter 664. Now that it had obtained a large number of primordial yang stones, its strength had been restored to the half-step venerable realm after a few days of cultivation. Although it could not be compared to before, it was able to use several secret techniques. Moreover, with its current speed, it was confident that it could escape from a venerable. After so many days, it was finally able to speak in front of everyone. Talking snake. It's a snake demon. The surrounding warriors were shocked. They had never seen such a spiritual monster. Damn it, you're the snake demon. Your whole family are snake demons. The Crimson Dragon looked unhappy and indignant. Blackwood Cliff was extremely shocked. He could no longer care about the talking snake, because from the other party's words, Lin Xian seemed to know the identity of the young man with single eyelids. However, even so, he still dared to attack, which showed that Lin Xian did not take these people seriously at all. Blackwood Cliff's face was very ugly because he found that Lin Xian was not afraid of the Divine Bird Palace at all. He found that all his plans had failed. However, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart because Lin Xian had injured the people of the Divine Bird Palace. With the Divine Bird Palace's methods, they would never let Lin Xian go. Sure enough, the other disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were angry and murderous. "Boy, you dare to injure the people of the Divine Bird Palace. Wait for your death. Humph, a bunch of stupid birds." The Crimson Dragon sneered. "You don't know that you've been fooled. That black boy knows that we're strong, but he kept provoking you. He obviously has bad intentions. You're still foolishly shouting. Do you really think we don't dare to kill you?" The blood of the Eastern Divine Dragon flowed in its body, so it did not have a good impression of these self-proclaimed divine birds. If it had not lost its dragon essence, it would have slapped them all to death. "Guys, don't listen to its nonsense. He's obviously trying to sow discord between us." Blackwood Cliff's face changed and hurriedly explained, "Humph, whatever you say is useless. You hurt the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. You'll pay with your life." The young men looked ferocious. However, they did not dare to attack. After all, Lin Xian was able to heavily injure the young man with single eyelids in one move. His strength was definitely not something they could contend against. However, this time, not only did the younger generation come, but the venerable ones from the clan also came along. As long as the clan's elders made a move, they would definitely be able to kill the detestable little thief in front of them. Get lost. Otherwise, Bin Huang will skewer you and roast the birds. The Crimson Dragon threatened. The little white monkey sat on the back of the Crimson Dragon, its eyes filled with disdain. Just you wait, you're dead. Several disciples of Divine Bird Palace quickly lifted the injured young man with single eyelids and left quickly. Everyone was stunned. They didn't think that the famous disciple of Divine Bird Palace would run away without a fight. However, they soon felt relieved because Lin Xian's performance was too terrifying. He was able to injure that kind of genius expert with a single sword strike. This kind of strength was definitely unfathomable, and it was very likely that he had already reached that level. As for the threat of Divine Bird Palace, Lin Xian didn't take it to heart. The grudge between him and Divine Bird Palace wasn't that small. Both sides were already in a state of irreconcilable enmity, so when encountering a disciple of Divine Bird Palace, he would definitely not be lenient. If it weren't for the fact that killing was prohibited in the city, he would have killed him long ago. Then, he looked at Blackwood Cliff. You instigated the disciples of the big forces to attack, and you secretly benefited. You're very skilled at using these despicable methods. Lin Xian sneered. A person like you doesn't deserve to be the Sand Region's heaven's pride. I won't kill you because it will dirty my hands. Get lost. This voice was cold, sonorous, and powerful, spreading in all directions. You dash, Blackwood Cliff trembled with anger. Lin Xian dared to scold him in public, which made him very mad. The elders of Blackwood Fort were also furious. They all stared at Lin Xian with unkind expressions. What, you want to fight? You can try. A cold smile appeared on Lin Xian's face. The people of Blackwood Fort trembled with anger, especially Blackwood Cliff. He wanted to attack several times, but he restrained himself. In the end, he waved his sleeve and left while gnashing his teeth. The others were dumbfounded. Was this still the arrogant heaven's pride? In front of Lin Xian, he didn't even dare to fart. Brother Lin, this time the disciples of Divine Bird Palace aren't the only ones who came. There are also a few venerables. You have to be careful. Marulong said in a deep voice. I have a deep grudge with Divine Bird Palace. It's impossible to turn enemies into friends. You two be careful. Don't get too close to me for the time being. You two develop your strength in secret first. When the time is right, we'll talk again. Lin Xian said. At present, Nan Gongseng and Ma Long were too weak to be of much use. There was no benefit in tying them to him. It was better for them to develop their strength in secret. This was the best choice. Lin Xian discovered that as his cultivation increased, he needed a powerful influence more and more. This wasn't just to protect his life, but also to accumulate resources. After seeing the disciples of those large influences, Lin Xian realized that compared to them, the resources he had weren't anything at all. For example, in the Palace of Gods of War, any supremacy would be able to create an entire Yuanyang stone mine. Compared to other places, it was definitely a huge resource. Moreover, he didn't have the time or energy to gather the resources he needed. But if he had a great influence behind him that could help him with these matters, it would save him a great deal of effort. Thus, Lin Xian had plans to develop his own influence. Of course, he knew that this matter couldn't be rushed. He had to slowly develop it. Only by giving these matters to the people he trusted the most could he feel at ease. After Lin Xian finished registering, he left. All he needed to do was wait for the competition to begin. Moreover, he had already made plans. After obtaining the Divine Dream Bone, he planned to leave the Sand Region and make a trip to War God Palace. This was because that was where he could find his father's whereabouts. As for Nan Gongseng, Ma Long, and the others, Lin Xian planned to have them develop in the Sand Region first. Of course, he would leave behind enough resources for them to cultivate. Of course, these matters would only begin after he obtained the Divine Dream Bone. For the next several days, Lin Xian lived a very leisurely life. During the day, he brought the Crimson Dragon and the little snow-white monkey to stroll through the city, tasting all sorts of delicacies. At night, he returned to the quiet courtyard and quietly cultivated. At this time, it was like she was living the life of an ordinary person, filled with serenity and serenity. This allowed his battle-hardened heart to settle down. Experiencing life or death battles was a type of experience, but living a peaceful and tranquil life was also another type of experience. Looking at the flowers blooming and withering in front of the courtyard, Lin Xian felt another form of life. This was something he hadn't experienced before. Now that he had condensed a true martial soul, he had new understandings of these things. Perhaps these things weren't of much use right now, but Lin Xian had a premonition that his future road of martial arts wouldn't be purely about increasing his combat strength. Increasing his soul and state of mind would be equally important. Thus, comprehending these things ahead of time would only bring him benefits. Chapter 665. On this day, Lin Xian brought the snow-white monkey and the crimson dragon out once again. At this moment, Quicksand City was abnormally lively. There was an endless stream of people on the streets, and the people in the various arenas were in a hubbub. The light was boundless, and the momentum was extremely vast. At this moment, the Alliance Combat Tournament had already begun. The various arenas had become the competition venue for the elimination matches. A prodigy like Lin Xian naturally did not need to participate in the preliminary elimination matches. He only needed to wait for the finals. However, since he had nothing to do, Lin Xian decided to enter and take a look. Then, he bought a ticket and entered the Nangong family's arena. It was a hubbub of voices, and the crowd was like a black tide. Lin Xian took a seat in the last row and looked down at the arena below. The cultivators in the Nangong Combat Tournament had very high cultivation, so they only needed to win 10 matches in a row to automatically win and enter the next round of the tournament. Looking around, Lin Xian sighed in admiration. As one of the top families in Quicksand City, the Nangong family's strength was very strong. The scale of this arena alone was more than 10 times larger than his Divine Dragon Pavilion's arena. The entire arena was divided into 4 levels. The lower 2 levels were ordinary seats, and the upper 2 levels were exquisite private rooms for some cultivators with status to watch the matches. The surroundings were richly ornamented, and the huge stone pillars were carved with all kinds of rare beasts. Young ladies in light muslin carried exquisite spirit wine as they shuttled through the crowd. Even if they were taken advantage of occasionally, they would just turn around and smile. They were not angry. The entire arena was very spacious. Lin Xian estimated that it could accommodate tens of thousands of people. Then, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. One had to know that his ticket to enter just now cost 100 mid-grade spirit stones. Not counting other things, just the ticket alone could earn the arena 5 million mid-grade spirit stones in a day. If he went out to defend and protect, he could earn 2 to 3 million mid-grade spirit stones in a day. This speed was too fast. It was as if he was sitting still and countless spirit stones were rolling in. Of course, such a grand occasion could only be seen in the Alliance martial arts competition. However, it was enough to show that the battle arena was definitely an extremely profitable business. Although Lin Xian sat in the back row and blended into the tens of thousands of people, he was quickly recognized. The deacon of the Nangong family invited Lin Xian to a private room on the 3rd floor. The entire private room was very big, like a small palace. The interior was beautifully decorated, richly ornamented, and magnificent. For young girls with impressive figures and beautiful faces slowly walked in. 2 of them were carrying exquisite spirit wine and various delicacies. The other girl stood behind Lin Xian and massaged him with her jade-like hands. The last beautiful girl pulled open the curtains in front of her, revealing a one-way, transparent crystal glass. As Lin Xian enjoyed the fine wine and food, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. As expected of a private room, the level of treatment was definitely not something that those ordinary martial artists could enjoy. He leaned back comfortably on the recliner. From here, he could see the competition through the crystal glass in front of him. Ha ha ha! Are all the martial artists of the Sand region trash? You can't even take one of my moves. An extremely arrogant voice came from below. Moreover, what was even more shocking was that there was a trace of immaturity in the voice. It was obviously the voice of a youth. Lin Xian frowned and looked down. He saw a youth in a colorful robe standing on the super arena below with his hands behind his back. His expression was arrogant, and his eyes were like lightning as he scanned the surroundings. It was as if he was the ruler of the world. He didn't put anyone in his eyes. Hearing this, the martial artists of the first and second floors of the sand region trembled with anger. They stared at the youth on the stage like hungry wolves, but none of them dared to make a move. This youth was too terrifying. He could send a peak spirit realm expert flying with one slap. This kind of person was definitely a top genius. Lin Xian was slightly surprised because he found that the arrogant youth was actually a disciple of the Divine Bird Palace. However, looking at his age, he was much younger than the young man with single eyelids. He was probably 17 or 18 years old. Judging from his cultivation, this youth seemed to be stronger than the young man with single eyelids. Interesting. A mysterious smile appeared on Lin Xian's face. Below, after the youth in the colorful roar, a strong young man suddenly roared and rushed into the arena. Bang! His feet landed on the ground, shaking the entire arena. It was as if a huge demonic mountain had fallen to the ground. The violent power made people tremble. Boy, you are very arrogant. Take my punch. The young man roared and punched out with both fists. They were like two angry dragons roaring in the air. Crack, 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 crack. Wherever the fist wind passed, the hard diamond ground cracked. One could imagine how powerful this punch was. The void trembled and the wind blew like a ghost's howl. This punch caused exclamations from all around. However, the youth in the colorful robe sneered disdainfully. Looking at the fist rushing towards him, he didn't dodge. Instead, he waited until the fist was close to him before he made his move. The youth raised his palm and then slapped it out. Bang! The surrounding air trembled violently. Countless spiritual energies surged and roared like a tsunami. The terrifying sound of the collision was like thunder from the 9 heavens, causing everyone's ears to tremble. The young man flew out as if he had been struck by lightning. Countless cracks appeared on his arms and scarlet blood splattered all over the ground. Shocked, everyone was shocked. Everyone in the martial arts arena exclaimed. Such a powerful young man was seriously injured by a single slap. This youth was too terrifying. The youth in the colorful robe slapped the young man flying and said disdainfully, "Too weak. You are not even comparable to a fly." Who else? Who can take my slap? This voice was extremely arrogant and echoed in the arena. It shouldn't be. With his strength, it's impossible for him to participate in this kind of elimination competition. Could there be something wrong with this? Everyone discussed. They had seen this youth's strength, and it was indeed terrifying. This kind of person could directly participate in the finals, but they didn't expect him to come to such a place. Juning stood in the arena with an arrogant face. He enjoyed the horrified gazes of the surrounding people. With his strength, he could naturally enter the finals directly. However, killing weak warriors in the beginner's arena was more satisfying for his perverted mentality. Why would a warrior of this level appear here? Lin Xian frowned slightly. Naturally, he didn't know about the other party's perverted mentality. That youth insisted. He could have entered the finals directly, but he refused. A woman beside him said softly, "Oh?" Lin Xian was surprised and turned to look at the youth on his right. The woman was in her 20s. She was beautiful and had a proud figure. At this moment, she was looking at Lin Xian with a smile. "You know?" Lin Xian was puzzled. Chapter 666. I know about such a small matter. If you want to know anything else, please ask. The beautiful girl said with a smile. Do you know anything about that young man? Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. The beautiful girl said softly, Juning, from the Divine Bird Palace. He's 17 years old and arrogant. His cultivation has reached the half-step honorable realm. Because of the divine bird's blood flowing through his veins, his martial soul is a divine bird. The girl said softly. Her information was very detailed. Lin Xian was shocked and became alert. You don't look like an ordinary maid. Lin Gongzi, don't worry. Even an honorable realm expert can't hurt you, let alone a few weak girls like us. Hearing this, the other young women also laughed softly. Oh, you know me. Lin Xian rubbed his nose. When he entered, the Nangong family elder did not mention his name. Don't misunderstand, young master. We are from the Merry Woods. This time, the Nangong family invited us to assist in the martial competition. A few days ago, at the Merry Woods, we naturally saw young master's style. So that's how it is. Lin Xian suddenly understood. He did not expect the Nangong family to invite people from the Merry Woods to serve them. That was really generous. The Merry Woods was a real money-squandering establishment. Without a certain amount of wealth, one could not even enter the door. And now, the Nangong family had arranged for 4 girls from the Merry Woods to serve each private room for this martial competition. "What's your name?" Lin Xian asked the beautiful girl on the right. "My name is Ruyu." "Ruyu, beautiful as jade. What a good name. Young master, you flatter me." Ruyu giggled and walked up, her hips swaying as she poured Lin Xian a glass of spirit wine. Lin Xian drank it in one gulp, and then looked down at the arena. On the arena, Zhu Ning's next opponent had already appeared. It was a young man in purple. This young man was extraordinary. His whole body was surrounded by purple energy, emitting a strong surge of power. He was not a warrior from the Sand region, but a genius warrior from the Purple Chi Pavilion. Purple Chi from the east. The purple-clothed young man used his ultimate skill as soon as he arrived. Purple Chi surged all over his body, forming a purple cloud as he quickly rushed forward. Multicolored light filled the sky, forming a blazing wave of energy that wreaked havoc in the air. Zhu Ning sneered as his right palm struck down. The wind from his palm was like a blade, violent and sharp to the extreme. It was like a silver river hanging upside down in the void. The blazing radiance intertwined with the brilliant purple clouds, forming waves of energy. "Wong," Zhu Ning sneered. His palm turned into a claw, and he clawed at the void. Suddenly, a huge phantom of a beast claw appeared in the void, as if it wanted to tear the world apart. The beast claws were terrifying. Each one of them was as thick as a mountain. They filled the void like 5 huge mountains. The purple clouds were torn apart, and then the beast claw phantom grabbed at the purple-robed young man with an even more violent aura. Extreme violet spectroscopic technique. The purple-clothed young man formed a seal with his palms, and his body shot out like a bolt of purple lightning. At the same time, countless purple figures appeared in the void. Every one of them looked like a real person, making it impossible to tell which one was real. These purple figures flew quickly in the void like bolts of purple lightning, and they quickly surrounded Zhu Ning to kill him. "Child's play. Break it." Zhu Ning sneered disdainfully. A pair of flaming wings appeared on his back. They were 100 meters long, and red divine flames danced on them, evaporating the void. His wings flapped, and flames filled the sky, dyeing the entire sky red. In an instant, countless purple figures were burned to ashes in the raging flames. The purple-clothed young man's real body appeared, and he looked extremely flustered. He quickly formed a seal with his palms. Bolts of purple lightning intertwined in his palms, forming a terrifying energy ball. Once the purple energy ball appeared, the surrounding air trembled, as if it could not withstand its power. Then, the purple-clothed young man waved his palms, and they shrouded the area in front of him. The purple lightning ball in his palms turned into a bolt of lightning that shot forward. "Oomph, you think you're worthy of using lightning?" Zhu Ning sneered disdainfully. He roared and spat out a bolt of blue lightning. The lightning was bright and dazzling. Countless bolts of lightning bloomed in the sky, and its aura was terrifying. In an instant, the blue lightning pierced through the purple lightning ball. The next moment, it hit the purple-clothed young man. Boom! A low rumble of thunder sounded in the surroundings. The purple-clothed young man looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body was charred black, and he fell onto the arena, twitching uncontrollably. Around him, the hard diamond ground was smashed into a terrifying crater, and black smoke rose from the ground around him. It was extremely terrifying. He was too powerful. He was definitely a young prodigy. Everyone's hearts palpitated. The strength that Zhu Ning displayed had already surpassed everyone else, and he was at the level of a prodigy. This guy is extremely similar to Lin Xian. He's also an invincible existence. Many people discussed and compared him to Lin Xian. When Zhu Ning heard these discussions, his face darkened, and he shouted coldly, What Lin Xian? How dare he compare himself to me? Get him out here, and I'll kill him with one slap. He wanted to dominate the world, not be on the same level as anyone. Stop bragging. I remember that a few days ago, Lin Xian severely injured your senior brother with one move. Don't you think it's a bit late for you to be so arrogant here? In the crowd, a sneer sounded. The voice was erratic, and no one could tell where it came from. However, it was obvious that the person who spoke did not like the actions of the Divine Bird Palace. So what? I wasn't there at the time. If I was, I would have killed him with one hand. Also, don't worry. He dared to injure a disciple of the Divine Bird Palace. I won't let him go. Don't you think Lin Xian is powerful? Go and tell him now that I'm waiting here. Tell him to get his ass over here and accept his death. These words were extremely arrogant, and he did not put Lin Xian in his eyes at all. Lin Xian's strength was extremely powerful, and it was very likely that he had already taken that crucial step. However, now someone dared to challenge him. It was simply audacious. Many people were even more furious because they had already regarded Lin Xian as their idol. Now that someone had insulted their idol, they could not wait to fight back. Now, they hoped that Lin Xian would appear and beat the arrogant kid in front of them. In a private room on the 3rd floor, Lin Xian was half lying on a rattan chair, enjoying the service of 4 stunning beauties. His gaze was slightly gloomy as he looked down with a trace of coldness. However, he had no intention of making a move. No matter how strong the opponent was, he was only a half-step venerable. He was no challenge to him. Therefore, Lin Xian was too lazy to make a move. However, the other 4 girls in the private room looked at Lin Xian curiously with a puzzled expression. You're not angry? Ru Yu asked. An ignorant brat is just being arrogant. What's there to be angry about? Do you think I'll lower myself to his level? Lin Xian shook his head and took a sip of the wine in his hand. I don't understand. If it were me, I would definitely return the favor. Ru Yu's small face was slightly raised. Oh, is that so? Then I'll give you a chance. Go down and send him away. Lin Xian sat up straight and said with a smile. He naturally knew that Ru Yu was provoking him to make a move. Chapter 667. Me. Ru Yu was stunned. She quickly shook her head. I'm no match for him. Don't worry. I've already figured out his flaws. As long as you do as I say, you'll definitely succeed. He has a martial soul prototype. Even if I know his flaws, it's futile in front of such absolute strength. Ru Yu did not dare to agree. She did not want to risk her life. Don't worry. I don't want you to win against him. Lin Xian smiled. Then what do you want? It's simple. Since he's speaking so arrogantly, of course I want to slap him in the face. Ru Yu was slightly taken aback. Then, she laughed. It seemed that the young man in front of her was not as calm as he appeared. Then, Lin Xian told Ru Yu about Zhu Ning's flaws and secretly transferred some energy into her body. With this energy, she could definitely hit Zhu Ning. Below, Zhu Ning sensed the crowd's angry and fearful gazes and felt very pleased. What elite. That Lin Xian is a coward. He doesn't even dare to come out. Seeing that Lin Xian was nowhere to be seen, Zhu Ning became even more arrogant. What's there to be arrogant about? If Lin Xian can send your senior brother flying with one strike, he can definitely severely injure you with one strike. A young girl screamed angrily. Lin Xian was her idol. She would not allow anyone to humiliate him. Is that so? Then I'm looking forward to him striking me. Zhu Ning sneered. But where is your idol? He doesn't even dare to come out. Zhu Ning's voice became louder and louder. It shook the void like the roar of 10,000 beasts. The crowd was furious, especially the disciples of the Divine Dragon Pavilion. They were so angry that their bodies trembled. This feeling was too sullen. However, at that moment, a graceful figure floated out from the private room on the 3rd floor. She landed lightly on the arena like a graceful swan. The crowd was stunned. They did not expect the person to be a lady. Judging from her attire, she seemed to be a servant. Zhu Ning laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Is there no one else in the sand region? They actually sent a servant. Little girl, get out of here. I don't kill women. Umph, don't be so arrogant. I'm here on Lin Gongzi's orders to slap your face. A gentle voice sounded like a cool breeze. This woman was naturally Ruyu. At this moment, she had already received the information imparted to her by Lin Xian and came to the arena. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and their minds went blank. Could this woman have been sent by Lin Xian? But this woman's aura is only at the limit realm. She's not Zhu Ning's match at all. At this moment, everyone was stunned. They did not know what Lin Xian was doing. Zhu Ning's face was even more gloomy. A little maid, an ant-like character, dared to humiliate him in public? Killing intent rose in his heart. Originally, I don't kill women, but since you're looking for death, don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame that bullsh *T Lin Xian. He didn't dare to stand up for himself and actually send a woman up. Such a person is worse than trash. Cut the crap, take this. Ruyu cried out. Her figure was like duckweed as she quickly swept out. You're courting death. Zhu Ning sneered. The flame wings on his back were hundreds of feet long. A sea of fire floated and burned fiercely. The crowd below exclaimed. This move was too powerful. Even the purple-robed youth could not withstand it, let alone a little maid. Countless young female warriors screamed and covered their eyes. They did not dare to watch what was going to happen next. The male warriors sighed. It was a pity that such a beautiful woman was about to be burned to ashes by the raging flames. However, unexpectedly, Ruyu's speed suddenly exploded. She kept changing positions in the void, and each time she appeared in an area where the flames were the weakest. Her movement technique was as fast as a ghost. In an instant, she was beside Zhu Ning. What? Everyone was shocked. They did not expect a little maid to have such a powerful movement technique. She could actually break through the sea of fire attack. Zhu Ning was also stunned. Then, his face became terrifyingly gloomy. He snorted coldly and stretched out his hand to grab the figure in front of him. Although the other party's movement technique was strange, and she was beside him, in his opinion, it was useless because the gap between them was like a chasm. Did Lin Xian really think that an ant could shake a giant dragon? What a joke. Therefore, Zhu Ning's eyes were full of disdain when facing Ruyu. Ruyu also waved her hand, and her slender hand quickly slapped out. Everyone sighed. How could a little maid block Zhu Ning's palm? However, what happened next stunned them. Ruyu's palm suddenly exploded with a powerful force. It bloomed with countless rays of light like a small sun. Slap! A crisp sound rang out. In the next moment, Zhu Ning flew out. A clear palm print appeared on his cheek. It was bright red. Everyone was stunned. It was like a dream. A maid really slapped Zhu Ning's face. How was this possible? Ruyu was delighted. Her eyes narrowed into crescents. The power in her hand just now was naturally injected into her body by Lin Xian. It exploded at the same time and easily broke through Zhu Ning's defense. You, die. Zhu Ning covered his handsome face. Hatred danced in his eyes. It was like a sharp blade that tore the void apart. A fierce, murderous aura was emitted from his body. It was accompanied by a sea of fire that enveloped half of the void. At this moment, the entire arena exploded with a heart-palpitating fluctuation. A fierce and terrifying murderous aura was emitted from Zhu Ning's body and rushed towards Ruyu. Not good. Ruyu was shocked. She wanted to escape, but her body seemed to be bound. She couldn't move at all. That terrifying aura was like a cage that tightly suppressed her. This was the power of a martial soul prototype. It had an absolute advantage over ordinary warriors. Am I going to die? Ruyu was shocked. Her mind was blank. However, in the next moment, a golden palm that carried a sky full of thunder and lightning suddenly grabbed down from the void. It was like the palm of a thunder god. It instantly tore the terrifying aura apart. Then, the golden palm wrapped around Ruyu and quickly retreated to the private room on the 3rd floor. Wanna leave? Not so easy. Stay here. Zhu Ning roared angrily. He was like an ancient fierce beast. How could he let her escape safely? The flames on his body surged and condensed into a flaming palm that chased upwards. However, he was a step too late. The golden palm instantly took Ruyu away as if it had never appeared. Seeing the flaming palm fall, Zhu Ning roared in anger. His voice was like a sword that pierced through the sky and shattered the clouds. Madness appeared in his eyes. He quickly urged the flaming palm in the void to attack the private room on the third floor. Everyone was shocked. If this palm landed, the entire arena would probably split into two halves in an instant. Chapter 668. Even the expressions of the Nangong family elders changed. Those in the private rooms on the third floor were all people with high status. If they were to suffer a heavy blow in their arena, it would be an unimaginable disaster. They looked at each other and decided to quickly take action. However, before they could act, a cold snort sounded out from the private room. Like an invisible sword, it instantly cut the flaming palm in half. Hoo. The giant flaming palm was split in half, turning into countless sparks that fell from the sky. Following that, a calm voice sounded out. I'll give you a warning this time. If you dare to speak nonsense again, I'll cut off your tongue. The voice wasn't loud, but it clearly spread out in all directions. Moreover, it contained a sharp aura that caused one's heart to tremble. Lin Xian, it's Lin Xian. Everyone was excited, their faces flushed red. This was too shocking. Lin Xian had sent out a maid, but she had easily slapped Zhu Ning's face. This was absolute contempt. Countless people were excited, wishing they could raise their arms and cheer. It wasn't that Lin Xian didn't dare to fight, but that he simply didn't place Zhu Ning in his eyes. This was a type of contempt, the contempt of the strong towards the weak. Zhu Ning's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He was so angry that his entire body trembled, and his chest felt like it would explode. Thinking of his previous actions, he ground his teeth so hard that they nearly shattered. He was like a clown that had been slapped unconscious. Disgrace. This was definitely the greatest disgrace in his life. Lin Xian, I want you dead. I'll definitely kill you. Zhu Ning was crazed as he roared with unwillingness. He had been humiliated, but he couldn't fight back. He was so angry that he could only leave with hatred. However, he had made up his mind. At the finals of the Alliance Ball, he would kill Lin Xian with his own hands. Only then would he be able to express the killing intent in his heart. After Zhu Ning left, the Nangong arena calmed down once more. The following matches also became a bit boring. Although Zhu Ning had been humiliated, one couldn't help but admit that he was currently the strongest contestant in the Nangong arena. He was also one of the most popular martial artists that had a chance of becoming the champion. The rewards for the champion of this martial assembly were extremely rich. Not only would they receive 10 million medium-grade spirit stones, but they would also obtain the extremely rare skeleton of a monster beast, the divine dream bone. Other than that, what was even more exciting was that the champion of the martial competition would give him a chance to meet the Morong goddess alone. This was the real reason why countless warriors had gone crazy. If they could use this opportunity to gain the favor of Goddess Morong, then they would be able to reach the peak of their lives very quickly. Lin Xian's goal was different from theirs. What he wanted was the incomparably precious divine dream bone. The following matches were a little boring, so Lin Xian left. He went to another arena, the Ma family's arena. There were many martial artists participating in the Alliance Martial Arts Tournament. Therefore, the martial arts arenas of the various major powers all had competition points. Only those who could defeat all the heroes in the various arenas would be able to enter the finals. The Ma family's martial arts arena was bustling with noise and excitement. The scene did not lose out to the Nangong family at all. Moreover, there was also a peerless expert here who could suppress everyone. It was a young man full of wildness. He was tall and sturdy, and his long golden hair was casually draped over his shoulders. His eyes were as ferocious as a wild beast's, causing one's heart to tremble. Moreover, what was even more mysterious was that there was a golden rune between his eyebrows. It was like a closed eye that emitted a heart-palpitating power. This young man was too powerful. He defeated his opponents in almost every match with a single move. There were even a few popular contestants who had been favored by others who had been defeated by him. There was no doubt that this was another mysterious expert from outside the realm. His strength was definitely not weaker than the Sand Region's geniuses. In fact, he might even be stronger. Lin Xian stood in the crowd and frowned as he looked at the majestic figure on the stage. He could naturally sense that this young man's cultivation was at the half-step honorable realm. However, the golden rune on his forehead made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Lin Xian knew that this was an instinctive resistance from his body. In other words, the golden rune was a threat to him. Then, he was deeply shocked. He had condensed a true martial soul, and his strength was comparable to an honorable realm expert. However, the golden rune between the golden-haired young man's eyebrows was still a threat to him. This was simply too inconceivable. However, he soon felt relieved. The Tianwu continent was extremely vast, and martial arts were flourishing. Perhaps this young man came from a mysterious force and had the strength to threaten an honorable realm expert. He secretly remembered this young man and turned to leave. The golden-haired young man was the strongest in the Ma family's martial arts arena, so he did not need to observe the others. Lin Xian left and headed to the next martial arts arena. This time, he headed to the Blackwood family's martial arts arena. The Blackwood family's martial arts arena was also very lively. Lin Xian did not conceal himself and directly appeared in the martial arts arena. Immediately, the entire Blackwood family was abnormally nervous. They looked at Lin Xian in a daze. The surrounding martial artists were even more shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to come to the Blackwood family's martial arts arena. One had to know that the two families were sworn enemies. Was he not afraid of being besieged by the Blackwood family? However, they soon felt relieved because they found that Lin Xian did not panic at all. Instead, a playful smile hung on his face. Moreover, they knew that Lin Xian had a mysterious relationship with the War God Palace. He also had connections with the Ma family, Nangong family, and the City Lord. Therefore, the Blackwood family did not dare to openly make a move in the city. The Blackwood family naturally knew this. They looked at Lin Xian and trembled with anger. However, they soon sneered. Because the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace looked at Lin Xian with the same murderous intent, their hatred seemed to be stronger than theirs. Offending the Divine Bird Palace. Even if you have the protection of the War God Palace, you will be killed sooner or later. The Blackwood Stronghold people sneered. The Divine Bird Palace was on the same level as the War God Palace. They did not fear the other party. Moreover, Lin Xian did not have a deep relationship with the War God Palace. Killing such a person was as easy as flipping a hand for the Divine Bird Palace. Lin Xian did not care about the Blackwood family's reaction. His eyes were fixed on the stage because there was also a supermaster here. The young man was tall, and his skin was dark like charcoal. At first, the crowd mocked him because of his skin color. However, they were soon shocked speechless. Because a quasi-heaven's pride martial artist punched the dark-skinned young man's chest and broke his own arm. Blood spurted out. The quasi-heaven's pride martial artist screamed in pain, his face full of horror. His punch was very powerful. Even a spirit-grade treasure might not be able to withstand it. However, when it hit the opponent's chest, it did not cause any damage. Instead, it even injured the opponent's arm. This was too terrifying. The quasi-heaven's pride martial artist quickly surrendered. He had a premonition that if the fight continued, it would not be as simple as a broken arm. The crowd was shocked. This was definitely another heaven's pride-level character. The dark-skinned young man looked around. Suddenly, he stared at Lin Xian. He revealed a mouthful of snow-white teeth and grinned. Chapter 669. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. This youth was also not simple. That abnormal defense was not any weaker than his red lotus armor. It seemed that Morong Goddess was indeed outstanding. She was actually able to attract so many young prodigies to come. In the Blackwood Coliseum, no one was a match for the dark-skinned youth. Lin Xian memorized this dark-skinned youth, then left. However, just as he turned around, people from the Divine Bird Palace walked out from the depths of the Coliseum. There were many youths among them, and there were also two old men accompanying them. Those two old men had terrifying auras. They had already reached the venerable realm. Lin Xian frowned. He did not want to fight with them after this. So his body flashed and turned into a gust of wind, instantly disappearing from where he stood. However, those two venerables were incomparably terrifying. They quickly discovered the abnormality. Their eyes were like lightning as they saw Lin Xian's afterimage. What? It's him. The two venerables' complexion changed greatly. A powerful aura gushed out from their bodies, like demonic clouds, enveloping the surroundings. The two venerables suddenly emitted a powerful pressure, immediately shocking everyone. Countless people trembled like helpless ants. Even the elders of the Blackwood stronghold were dumbfounded. Their faces were full of doubt. Fellow Taoists, why are you so angry? Could it be that we did not treat you well? The elder of the Blackwood stronghold asked worriedly. No, it's just that we saw a hateful little thief. That person is on our Divine Bird Palace's wanted list, but we did not expect him to appear here. Wanted person on the wanted list? Everyone was shocked. To be able to make the Divine Bird Palace so angry, it must be a terrifying demon king. Could it be that some powerful venerables recently arrived at Quicksand City? The people of the Blackwood stronghold were puzzled. However, when they saw the portrait condensed by the venerables of the Divine Bird Palace, they were immediately dumbfounded, because that portrait was none other than Lin Xian. They did not expect that Lin Xian was on the Divine Bird Palace's wanted list. Originally, they wanted to provoke the Divine Bird Palace to help them get rid of Lin Xian. However, they did not expect that they did not even need to do anything. The people of the Divine Bird Palace already hated Lin Xian to the bone. This kind of happiness came too suddenly, causing them to be dazed for a moment. Blackwood Cliff's heart was even more ecstatic. He wished he could raise his arms and shout, "Damn little thief. He's definitely dead. Divine Bird Palace is wanted. There's no way out." The young disciples of the Divine Bird Palace beside him were also shocked. They did not expect that the person who had repeatedly provoked them was a character on the must-kill order. So he's the Lin Xian we wanted to kill. If I had known earlier, I would have killed him back then. Zhu Ning's face was cold. He Xian was. The venerable from Divine Bird Palace had an ugly look on his face. He had tried to lock onto the other party, but the other party was so fast that he had lost track of him. Don't worry, the two of you. This little thief is participating in the Alliance Martial Competition. He will definitely appear in the finals. This isn't too convenient, said the Blackwood Stronghold Elder. Although he hoped that the Divine Bird Palace would make a move now, they would not be able to escape responsibility. They would be hated by the Palace of War Gods. To be honest, this little thief is also an enemy of our Blackwood Stronghold. We sent out 3 venerables, but they were unable to take him down. What? Did this brat become so powerful? Even 3 venerables could not take him down. The Divine Bird Palace Elder was shocked. Don't misunderstand. This little thief is only a spirit-detecting realm martial artist. However, he has many venerables protecting him. It will be difficult to kill him in Quicksand City. Moreover, this brat is related to the Palace of War Gods, so it's best not to kill him in public. Palace of War Gods? Venerables protecting him? Hearing this, the 2 venerables frowned. From these words, they knew that the people of the Blackwood Stronghold must have suffered a great loss in Lin Xian. It seemed that they could not make a move in Quicksand City. Elders, don't worry. As long as that little thief dares to come to the finals, I will kill him personally. At this moment, a voice rang out. Everyone was shocked. They turned around and saw a young man walking out from the depths of the arena. This young man was also wearing a 5-colored battle robe. His expression was cold, and his body emitted a powerful aura. Brother, Zhu Ning exclaimed. He did not expect his brother to make a move. His brother was a true genius. He was only a hair away from condensing a true martial soul. He was definitely an extremely powerful martial artist among the younger generation. With his brother making a move, he would definitely be able to kill that little thief surnamed Lin. Don't worry, I will let him live for a few more days. When the finals come, I will kill him in front of everyone. That's great. The 2 venerables laughed. They knew that the young man in front of them definitely had such strength. This was because he was a genius of their clan. The competitions in the various arenas were proceeding in an orderly manner. 5 days later, the 7 martial artists who would enter the finals were finally selected. In addition to Lin Xian and the other geniuses who could enter the finals directly, There were a total of 12 peerless experts fighting for the final championship. These 12 experts were all geniuses. Each of them was extremely powerful and could suppress their peers. The competition between these people was definitely a rare and incomparable battle. Perhaps only Goddess Morong had such charm to be able to gather geniuses from all over the world. This time, the competition was held in an ancient super arena in the city. The arena was very large and could accommodate 100,000 people. It was a real super arena. The competition followed the order of drawing lots. The first round of the competition was quickly decided. The first round of the competition was actually Lin Xian. His opponent was the genius of the Divine Bird Palace, Zhu Ning, who had a grudge with him. When this news came out, the entire Quicksand City was in an uproar. This was a battle between two geniuses. It was definitely going to be exciting. Moreover, not long ago, Lin Xian had slapped Zhu Ning's face in front of everyone in the Nangong arena. Although the two of them did not fight in the end, they were already in a state of mortal combat. This battle was definitely going to be exciting. One had to know that although Zhu Ning had been slapped in front of everyone, his strength was unquestionable. He definitely had the combat strength of a genius. Moreover, he was also a disciple of the Divine Bird Palace. He definitely had earth-step martial arts in his hands and might even possess the power of a bloodline. There was no need to mention Lin Xian. Ever since he arrived at Quicksand City, everything he did could be called a legend. Moreover, not long ago, he had fought several geniuses in an attempt to break through. Even a venerable couldn't do anything to him. Such a legendary youth's combat strength was absolutely heaven-defying. The battle between these two geniuses would absolutely shock the world. Regarding this, Lin Xian didn't have any emotional reaction. He had already condensed a true martial soul. It could be said that in the entire younger generation of Quicksand City, no one was his match. Thus, he only hoped that the competition would quickly proceed so that he could obtain the Divine Dream Bone. As for Zhu Ning, he didn't care about him at all. Chapter 670. In comparison, he was more worried about the two venerables from the Divine Bird Palace. However, Zhu Ning was different. He shouted excitedly. Not long ago, he had been slapped in the face by Lin Xian, making him lose all face. He needed an opportunity to kill Lin Xian fair and square. However, the heavens seemed to be on his side. He was matched against Lin Xian in the first round of the finals. This was definitely the best time to humiliate him. Zhu Ning grinned as the blood in his body boiled. In his opinion, he had been careless last time. If he took it seriously, he would definitely be able to kill Lin Xian. After all, he was a genius disciple of the Divine Bird Palace. Not only did he have an Earth-rank martial art, but he also had the power of the Divine Bird bloodline. Ordinary geniuses were no match for him. Lin Xian, I'm going to cut you into pieces. I'll let you taste the consequences of provoking me. Zhu Ning was like a demon as he laughed wildly. Compared to the two of them, the most excited were the people of Quicksand City. On this day, the tickets to enter the arena were sold at a sky-high price. The price was 10 times, or even dozens of times the original price. However, there were still countless cultivators who madly bought tickets. They didn't hesitate to go bankrupt just to watch this competition. They wouldn't miss this kind of battle between geniuses no matter what. In the ancient Super Colosseum, the 100,000 seats were quickly sold out. However, there were more than 1 million cultivators in Quicksand City. 100,000 seats couldn't satisfy their needs. Moreover, this competition was extraordinary. Almost all the participants were geniuses. This kind of grand occasion was rarely seen in 100 years. Therefore, at the request of the majority of cultivators, the Nangong family and the other top forces had no choice but to erect a huge crystal light screen array in Quicksand City to broadcast the competition in the Super Colosseum. All the major forces worked together, and their efficiency was very high. Soon, several huge crystal light screens were set up. Around them were many complex formations used to transmit information and images. Only then did the cultivators of Quicksand City feel satisfied. The Super Colosseum was bustling with noise and excitement. The 100,000 seats were all filled. The crowd was like a flood. In the center of the Colosseum, there was a huge arena that was 1,000 meters long and wide. It was big enough for the geniuses to fight. Moreover, an Exalt Realm expert had poured formidable spirit energy into the ground of the combat arena, so it was utterly impossible for anyone below the Exalt Realm to destroy it. Around the Super Battle Ring, a 5-colored light screen was set up. Hundreds of array masters worked together to maintain the light screen to ensure the safety of everyone. It could be said that everything was ready. All that was left was for the competition to begin. The people from the 3 great clans knew that everyone was looking forward to it, so they didn't delay and immediately announced the start of the competition. A young man in a 5-colored battle suit flew onto the arena like a divine bird. His expression was arrogant, and his eyes released the radiance of hatred. Divine flames surged around his body, accompanied by killing intent. His aura was astonishing. The youth was naturally Juning. His eyes were cold, and his lips curled into a sneer. He had been waiting impatiently for a long time. In this battle, he had to kill Lin Xian with his own hands to redeem his reputation. In the distance, Lin Xian strode through the air like an exiled immortal, and he was confident and composed as he descended onto the arena. "Thief, today is the day you die." Juning glared at Lin Xian, his eyes burning with rage. "It seems that the lesson I taught you last time wasn't enough. You still don't know how to repent. I won't let you off this time." Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. "Humph, you sneak-attacked me last time. This time, I'll let you know my true strength." Juning roared, and his aura surged. He couldn't wait to prove himself. "Who do you think you are to provoke me? I'm a genius of the Divine Bird Palace, and the blood of the Divine Bird flows in my body. Today, I'll pull out your tendons and skin you alive. I'll let you know the consequences of provoking me. Pull out my tendons and skin me alive? I'm looking forward to it." Lin Xian snorted coldly, "But before that, I think it's necessary to remind you of the rules of the combat arena. In the combat arena, life and death are up to fate." Lin Xian's voice echoed clearly in every corner of the combat arena. "Cut the crap. I know the rules, so don't waste your time. It won't change anything." Zhu Ning smiled cruelly, and the divine flames on his body danced like a fire demon. "You know, that's great." Lin Xian smiled. "So, this battle will only determine life and death, victory and defeat." As he finished speaking, the aura on his body gradually condensed, like a peerless divine sword slowly being unsheathed. The crowd was shocked, and then they shouted wildly. It seemed that the two were going to fight to the death. The surrounding martial artists raised their arms and shouted. Their voices were like the cries of 10,000 beasts, shattering the clouds in the sky. They didn't care who lived and who died. They just wanted the fiercest battle. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. "You dare to fight to the death with Zhu Ning? You're courting death." They knew that Zhu Ning had the blood of the Divine Bird flowing in his body. If he burned it, his power would be comparable to a venerable. This kind of genius youth was definitely not someone Lin Xian could compete with. So they sneered, looking forward to the moment when Lin Xian was killed. "Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. I'll cut off your flesh piece by piece and let you know what pain is." Zhu Ning was like a demon, roaring ferociously. A pair of 100-meter-long flaming wings appeared on his back. He flapped them twice and quickly rushed out. The monstrous sea of fire spread, and a terrifying heat wave wreaked havoc in the air. The divine flames danced, covering half the sky. Zhu Ning roared and waved his palm. The terrifying flaming palm was like a burning meteor, quickly sweeping across. The entire space was blasted open, and countless waves of air rolled and crashed into the light screen, forming a thunderous sound. This fist was extremely terrifying, containing the power of a martial soul's embryonic form. Even a genius wouldn't dare to take it head-on. Lin Xian didn't dodge at all as he looked at the terrifying waves surging towards him. He had already given Zhu Ning a chance, but Zhu Ning didn't repent and still wanted to kill him. So this time, he wouldn't hold back. Light bloomed in his eyes, and a sharp and terrifying aura emanated from Lin Xian's body. It was like a peerless divine sword, piercing through the 9 heavens. This aura was so sharp that it made the hearts of the 100,000 warriors tremble, as if countless sharp swords were slashing across their bodies. In the next moment, Lin Xian pulled out the Wind Shadow sword from his waist and quickly slashed forward. The sword light was dazzling, and the cold light was dazzling. It was like a rainbow, quickly cutting through the void. Puff! Like cutting through tofu, the sharp sword light cut through the fiery fists that were rolling over. Then, the sword light slashed towards Zhu Ning with an even sharper and faster momentum. What? This is impossible. Zhu Ning's expression changed. He didn't expect his attack to be so easily broken by his opponent. With a roar, he prepared to counterattack again. At this moment, the dazzling light had already arrived in front of him and slashed down. The flames in front of him stirred and condensed into an ancient flaming shield, blocking in front of Zhu Ning. However, it didn't have any effect. The sword light flashed, and the flaming shield was split in half. Zhu Ning's body trembled, and he was stunned on the spot. A look of horror appeared in his eyes. Chapter 671. The previous arrogance and hatred in his eyes were gone, replaced by deep fear and despair. "No!" he roared indignantly, but his body was split into two halves from the middle, and he fell onto the arena. Everyone was in a daze, unable to believe what had just happened. The Divine Bird Palace's prodigy, who was extremely powerful just a moment ago, was now split into two halves. That was too terrifying. Silence, absolute silence. The 100,000 warriors were in a daze. They were all stunned at that moment and did not make a sound. The ancient super martial arts arena was shrouded in an aura of death, and it was abnormally oppressive. Impossible. The Divine Bird Palace disciples were the first to react, and they roared indignantly. Then, they ran toward the arena as if they had gone mad. The two venerable realm elders were so angry that they were trembling all over. Their faces were distorted, and they emitted a terrifying aura that belonged to venerables, which swept out in all directions. Their heaven's chosen had died, and he had been killed right under their noses by a single sword strike. Perhaps no one would believe it if this was told to others, but it really happened at this moment. "Brat, I want you dead." The two venerables were furious. They struck out with their terrifying palms and quickly slapped toward Lin Xian. The venerable from the Divine Bird Palace was furious. The terrifying palm that covered the sky instantly slapped toward Lin Xian. In the next moment, the venerables from the Nangong family and the Ma family also attacked and blocked the terrifying attack. Everyone, the rules of the martial arts arena are that life and death are up to fate. We've already made it clear. It's not good for you to break the rules like this. What's wrong with it? Whoever dares to stop me will be an enemy of the Divine Bird Palace. The two venerables were about to go crazy. They were like crazy wild beasts, without any rationality. Although the Divine Bird Palace is powerful, breaking the rules like this is looking down on the Sand Country. At that moment, City Lord Qi's voice drifted out. Not only did ordinary warriors come to the Alliance Martial Arts Tournament this time, even those old monsters in the Venerable Realm were all here. At that moment, City Lord Qi was sitting in an exquisite private room with a gloomy face. "Cut the crap. No matter what, we must kill this little thief today." The two venerables emitted powerful auras like two ferocious beasts, making people tremble in fear. Is that so? The people from the Divine Bird Palace are really impressive. How dare you bully the weak like this? What a joke. Although I don't know this young man, for the sake of justice, my Murong family will not sit idly by. A clear and cold voice sounded out, and it was like the sound of nature as it reverberated in the arena. Murong family, it's the Murong goddess. When the 100,000 spectators below heard the heavenly voice, they were instantly ecstatic. The faces of the two venerables from the Divine Bird Palace turned black. They didn't expect the Murong family to intervene in this matter, and their attitude was very tough. If a fight really broke out at this time, they might not be able to stop the venerables of Quicksand City and the Murong family. At that time, they would be the ones to suffer. Thinking of this, the two venerables from Divine Bird Palace snorted. "Since Goddess Murong has spoken, then we will give her face. We will not attack during the competition, but after the competition, we hope that you will not stop us." If anyone dares to make a move at that time, then don't blame us for being merciless. The two venerables from Divine Bird Palace snorted coldly, and then their bodies disappeared in the air. Then, the terrifying venerables in the void also disappeared, and the crowd breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Xian's eyes flashed, and he sneered in his heart. Although he couldn't defeat the two venerables, they definitely couldn't stop him. If they really attacked, he was confident that he could kill those Divine Bird Palace disciples in an instant. At that time, he would let those two old things go crazy. Lin Xian walked down the stage and returned to the lounge. The other geniuses who were participating in the competition looked dignified because Lin Xian was too strong. He killed a genius warrior with one sword, and his combat strength was probably not much different from a venerable's. Has he really reached that step and condensed a real martial soul? He Muya's heart trembled. The sword just now had stunned him. He carefully deduced and found that if it was him, he wouldn't be able to stop it. Now, he didn't even have the courage to fight with Lin Xian. The faces of the Divine Bird Palace disciples were gloomy. They were furious, but at the same time, their hearts were filled with endless fear. Zhu Ning was a very talented warrior among them. He had reached the half-step venerable realm at the age of 17 and could be said to be a shocking genius. If such a genius was properly nurtured, he even had the hope of breaking through to the king realm in the future. However, at this moment, he had been killed here, so how could they not be shocked? Moreover, what made them even angrier was that Zhu Ning's death was too unjust because he didn't even have time to use his Earth-rank martial arts and bloodline power before he was killed. In the end, they still underestimated Lin Xian's strength. If he could activate his bloodline power and use his Earth-rank martial arts at the beginning, perhaps the situation would be different. Brother, don't worry, I'll definitely kill him and avenge you. A young man with a cold expression looked at the corpse that was being carried back, and his voice was cold. His name was Zhu Yu, and he was Zhu Ning's brother. He was also the strongest among this group of young people. At this moment, Zhu Yu's hair was covered in a fierce aura, and his entire person was like a god of death, incomparably terrifying. He sat down coldly and rested his strength, waiting for the moment to fight Lin Xian. On the super arena, the scarlet blood was washed clean, and the entire arena once again emitted a faint light. Soon, it welcomed the second round of the competition. In the second round, the opponent was actually the cold and arrogant blonde young man. His opponent was a blue-clothed swordsman, who was also a genius. These two people were extremely powerful. Although they didn't directly obtain the qualifications to enter the finals, their strength was obvious to all, because they had killed their way up step by step from thousands of people. In these past few days, the cultivators in Quicksand City had witnessed the rise of these two people. Now that these two experts had challenged each other, it caused a frenzied wave of cheers. The blonde young man's aura was fierce, and his handsome face was expressionless. His blonde hair fluttered in the wind and emitted a dazzling golden light, like a sun. Standing there, he didn't move at all, but he gave off an endless sense of oppression, as if a giant golden mountain was standing in front of everyone, making it difficult for them to breathe. In particular, the golden rune on his forehead flickered from time to time, emitting a mysterious power. The aura emitted by the golden rune made the hearts of the supremacies tremble. Some people even secretly estimated that the power of the golden rune was enough to threaten supremacies. Regardless of whether this guess was correct or not, it was enough to show how terrifying the blonde young man was. As for the blue-clothed swordsman, no one dared to underestimate him. This was because in the previous battle, he had already used his strength to prove himself. Many of the older generation speculated that the blue-clothed swordsman's strength was stronger than the Sand region's 4 great geniuses. Therefore, this round was also an exciting battle. Chapter 672. Dong. The low sound of a drum reverberated in the surroundings like muffled thunder. The second round of the finals had officially begun. The golden-haired young man was imposing without being angry. His body emitted endless golden light like a sun, so bright that everyone could not open their eyes. At this moment, the dazzling golden light made everything around him pale in comparison, making the young man the only one in the entire world. He was like a golden god of war. Although he did not make a move, the aura from his single hand made people tremble. The blue-robed swordsman snorted coldly. He pulled out the long sword on his back and stabbed out quickly. In an instant, the sky was filled with sword radiance. It was like a long river flowing endlessly, instantly slashing apart the oppressive aura. The blazing sword radiance was dazzling and dazzling. It was like a divine light that quickly rushed towards the golden-haired young man. The golden-haired young man attacked fiercely and threw out a punch. Golden light shone. His entire fist looked like it was cast in gold, emitting a terrifying aura. The void shook. It could not withstand the force at all. The air in front of it was instantly sucked dry. The two terrifying forces intertwined and turned into countless energy waves that slapped in all directions. The sound of metal clashing came from the void. It was like a golden spear and an armored horse that tore the sky apart. Fortunately, the entire arena was protected by a powerful defensive formation. Otherwise, the super arena would have been split open by this attack. Luo River 3000. The blue-robed swordsman's surroundings shone brightly. The water element aura quickly condensed and surrounded him like roaring waves. Finally, these terrifying waves were accompanied by the long sword in his hand. They quickly slashed forward. The blue-robed swordsman used a sword technique. The terrifying sword radiance turned into a vast, surging ocean that rolled forward. The sound of the waves soaring into the sky was deafening. It was like the raging waves hitting the shore. The vast power covered half of the sky. The huge waves kept roaring and even spread to the edge of the arena. They hit the five-colored light screen and made an earth-shattering sound. The 100,000 spectators below exclaimed. This sword was too terrifying. If it was not for the light screen, half of the arena would have been destroyed. The vast ocean of sword chi roared and swallowed the golden-haired young man in an instant. In the distance, the blue-robed swordsman saw this scene and smiled with satisfaction. He waved his sword and tapped lightly in the void. Suddenly, the waves of sword chi in the distance churned continuously, forming a ferocious and terrifying sea beast, as if it was going to tear the golden-haired young man apart. The impact was so strong that the entire arena was shaking. Fortunately, the arena contained the vast power of a venerable. Otherwise, it would have been crushed into powder. The terrifying oceanic sword chi lasted for a long time before it gradually disappeared. The golden-haired young man's figure appeared again, but in the next moment, the 100,000 spectators let out an earth-shattering cry. That was because the golden-haired youth was still standing there coldly. There was not a single wound on his body. What? This is impossible. In the distance, the blue-robed swordsman's pupils constricted, his face full of shock. Even if that sword had hit a genius, it would have been enough to seriously injure him. However, the golden-haired young man before him was not hurt at all. This was too strange. The golden-haired man's body glowed with light, as if he was a golden god of war. He took a step forward and his body instantly disappeared as he charged towards the blue-robed swordsman like lightning. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and punched out quickly. Vast power condensed together, like a roaring golden flood dragon, quickly swimming in the void. In an instant, the golden flood dragon fist shadow was in front of the blue-robed swordsman. It roared into the sky, causing the entire arena to shake rapidly. The blue-robed swordsman used his sword steps and dodged continuously. His body was like a blue ray of light, dragging a long tail of light, leaving behind afterimages in the void. However, the golden fist was too strong. It caused the entire space to become extremely chaotic. The terrifying wind swept the blue-robed swordsman's body, causing him to retreat. Fortunately, a water-blue sword chi rushed out of his body. It was as thick as a mountain and protected his body, preventing him from being smashed into pieces. The blue-robed swordsman suppressed his internal injuries and snorted coldly. He unleashed the embryonic form of his martial soul. Crystal-clear blue water droplets, like the purest sapphires, shone around him like the stars in the sky. It was dreamy and illusory. Those crystal-clear water droplets lined up in front of his chest, forming a small blue sword that kept floating. Suddenly, a sharp aura rushed towards him. The blue light illuminated half of the arena. It was like a vast ocean, incomparably deep. In the next moment, the small blue sword flew out. It was as fast as lightning and instantly hit the golden-haired youth's body, sending him flying. Boom! The golden-haired youth was sent flying. His body crashed into the light screen, causing violent fluctuations. The golden light in front of his chest dimmed, but it still did not break. However, the powerful force made him bleed from the corner of his mouth. His opponent unleashed the power of the embryonic form of his martial soul, causing his blood to boil and causing him to suffer internal injuries. Kill! The golden-haired youth shouted coldly. It was the first time he spoke. He was like an angry lion, his body emitting a dazzling light. Then, he roared angrily. His golden hair fluttered, like an ancient ferocious beast. The sound wave was ear-piercing. As the vast golden light spread in all directions, the small blue sword in front of his chest suddenly exploded, turning into countless water droplets that splashed in all directions. In front of him, the terrifying sound wave and golden light condensed, forming the shadow of a wild lion that ran in the air. That force caused the entire arena to tremble. Bang! The blue-robed swordsman was sent flying. The protective sword chi on his body cracked, and a bloody claw mark appeared on his chest. It was hideous and terrifying. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood and fell on the arena, his face full of fear. The 100,000 spectators below were also trembling. They did not expect the powerful blue-robed swordsman to lose so quickly. This golden-haired youth is very strong. The other contestants also frowned, especially Heimuya. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. His strength was similar to the blue-robed swordsman's, but at this moment, the blue-robed swordsman had been utterly defeated and could not resist at all. This made him feel bitter, and a very bad premonition arose in his heart. At least now, there were already 2 people that he could not defeat. Moreover, there must be peerless experts among the other contestants. He estimated that his strength was at most average. At this level, there was no chance for him to win the championship. He was the Sand Region's genius, respected by tens of thousands of people, but now he was suppressed and could only look up to others. This feeling made him despair. The other geniuses were silent and had different expressions. Zhu Yu sat in an exquisite private room and closed his eyes to rest. His only opponent was Lin Xian, and he ignored the others. The dark-skinned youth looked at the arena and revealed his snow-white teeth. His smile was very frightening. Shen Yaotian snorted coldly. Starry halos shone around his body, making him look like a starry sky war god. The golden-haired youth was very strong, but he was most concerned about Lin Xian. This was because he wanted to know if Lin Xian had broken through to that stage and condensed a real martial soul. After all, he had sent 2 experts to assassinate Lin Xian, but in the end, they returned without success. If Lin Xian had really condensed a martial soul, he would definitely be a great threat to him. Chapter 673. Next, the competition proceeded quickly. Every battle was very exciting, causing the audience to scream non-stop. The dark-skinned youth had a strong defense, and no one could break through his defense, so he won the battle easily. Zhu Yu's face was full of killing intent. He attacked with a terrifying lightning and fire, instantly injuring his opponent. Shen Yaotian was like the god of war, and 108 star halos shone around him. He also defeated his opponent with ease. Half a day later, the 6 matches ended. Among them, the top 6 were announced. The 6 were Lin Xian, the golden-haired youth, the dark-skinned youth, Zhu Yu, Shen Yaotian, and the last was Heimuya. He used all his strength to defeat his opponent and successfully entered the top 6. The 6 experts each fought one side, and each of them exuded an extremely powerful aura. That aura was so strong that the 100,000 martial artists could only look up to it. These 6 people were too powerful. They were definitely the top of the younger generation. Among them, Lin Xian was the most eye-catching because he was the only one who killed a prodigy in one move. There were even rumors that he had successfully condensed a martial soul and was above everyone else. The other 5 prodigies who won also looked at Lin Xian, and their eyes shone with battle intent. It could not be helped because Lin Xian's strength was the most mysterious. No one knew what level he had reached. Mystery was the most terrifying. Soon, the second round of the competition began. The first round was the match between Shun Yaotian and He Muya. In the previous round, He Muya used all his strength to win. However, Shun Yaotian did not. He defeated his opponent easily. Therefore, this battle seemed to be without any suspense. Moreover, the result was indeed so. In the arena, He Muya looked nervous. The spirit chi in his body surged, and huge trees grew around him, occupying more than half of the arena. Behind him, the shadow of a huge black tree kept swaying, making rustling sounds. It was like a peerless demon, ferocious and terrifying. However, Shun Yaotian snorted in disdain. 108 astral halos shone around his body. With a wave of his hand, the spirit chi in the sky condensed into huge stars and fell down. Every single star seemed to be real. They were incomparably huge and burned with raging flames as they quickly descended. In an instant, all kinds of demonic trees on the arena were smashed. At the same time, the huge black tree shadow was also affected by the impact and became extremely dim. As if struck by lightning, He Muya's face became incomparably pale. Then, he screamed in horror and didn't dare to fight anymore. With just one strike, his martial soul's embryonic form had been damaged. If the battle continued, it was very likely that his martial soul would shatter. Once the embryonic form of his martial soul was shattered, then he would lose the opportunity to enter the Exalt realm. He did not dare to take the risk and could only admit defeat. Whoosh! The 100,000 spectators below were in an uproar. They hadn't expected the Sand Region genius to admit defeat so quickly. He Muya's complexion was deathly pale. He wished he could find a hole in the ground to burrow into. However, he really didn't dare to continue fighting. He could only leave the stage in dejection amidst the cursing. Lin Xian also sneered and shook his head. Not counting strength, just He Muya's cowardice alone would not allow him to become a true powerhouse. This kind of person was not worthy of being his opponent. The first match ended quickly just like that. Soon, the second match began. This match was between a golden-haired youth and a dark-skinned youth. Although the two of them were new faces in Quicksand City, their valiant strength had already conquered the crowd. The golden-haired youth was incomparably mysterious. His roar could injure a genius. His combat strength was heaven-defying. The dark-skinned youth was even more impressive. His powerful defense was like a top-notch treasure. No one could break through it. Some of the older generation experts even analyzed that the defense was probably extremely powerful. It would be very difficult for anyone below the Exalt realm to break through it. Between the two of them, one had heaven-defying combat strength, while the other had a powerful defense. Who would win if the two of them fought? This was what everyone was looking forward to the most. The golden-haired youth still didn't say a word. He stood there coldly like a golden god of war. However, his aura was even more powerful. The golden light was very dazzling, as if it was going to pierce through the void. The dark-skinned youth revealed his snow-white teeth and gave a very strange smile. As if sensing the strength of his opponent, the golden-haired youth's body shone even more brightly. The golden light intertwined in the air, forming an extraordinary majestic lion. The dark-skinned youth revealed his snow-white teeth. The spirit energy on his body surged, forming mysterious runes that adhered to his dark skin. Ancient inscriptions, the older generation experts exclaimed. These runes were passed down from ancient times and possessed unfathomable energy. Now, they had almost been lost. No one expected them to appear on a youth. Ancient inscriptions. This person is indeed very powerful. Lin Xian sat in the lounge and stared at the arena with a slight frown. He naturally knew the power of the ancient inscriptions because he had seen them in Lord Alcohol's hands. However, because his cultivation was insufficient back then, he couldn't understand them at all. Therefore, Lord Alcohol didn't impart them to him. However, something that could be used by Lord Alcohol was definitely not an ordinary item. One could imagine how powerful the ancient inscriptions were. In the air, the majestic lion formed completely from energy transformed into a golden beam of light and charged forward. It was so fast that no one could see it clearly. They could only see a flash of light surging rapidly. The void trembled as wind and thunder rumbled as if it was being mercilessly torn apart by a pair of large hands. In an instant, the ferocious lion appeared in front of the dark-skinned youth. It roared ferociously and quickly slapped down. An earth-shattering sound resounded in all directions. Then, golden light flashed and turned into the purest energy that enveloped the entire arena. Ha ha ha, it's useless. The dark-skinned youth laughed loudly. Like a giant, he raised his hands and tore the golden light apart. Ancient inscriptions flashed on his body, forming a mysterious power that blocked all the golden light outside his body. Such a terrifying attack didn't cause any harm to him. Everyone gasped. Absolute defense. How were they supposed to fight? They couldn't break through his defense at all, let alone injure him. Lin Xian was also surprised. The dark-skinned youth's defense was too powerful. It was definitely the strongest defense below the supremacy realm. In the arena, the dark-skinned youth laughed loudly. He stomped his foot and charged forward like a black, demonic mountain. The ground trembled as if there was an earthquake. If it wasn't for the fact that the arena had been injected with the power of a supremacy, it would have been reduced to dust. Even so, the entire arena was shaking non-stop. In an instant, he arrived in front of the golden-haired youth and punched out with his right fist like an earth-demonic bear. An earth-shattering force surged out, instantly sucking the air in front of him. That punch was too terrifying. It was purely the power of the physical body. Even so, the elites didn't dare to take it head-on. The golden-haired youth was sent flying high into the air, his body trembling non-stop. He roared and released a sonic attack. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.